All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live here, and we apologize for the delay, but we've had some major technical difficulties, and I do apologize for that here on Sportswire Radio. We'll see how to get through with that, but in the meantime, I am here with two of my guys, the brute force Brad Weiss and the honorable MC Ernest Duff, who I forgot the last time I've even spoke with him. And guys, how are we tonight?
Doing great, Tom. Another Friday night for sure.
Yeah, I guess I'm getting older. Got the glasses on. Got to do what I'm going to do.
Well, be that as it may, obviously want to thank everybody for tuning in here on Sportswire Radio. And I'm going to I guess I should open up with the Mets because I have Ernest Dove here. And Ernest, it's been a while since we've had you on. And what do you make of the Mets right now?
I don't know if the season ended again yet. I don't know what day it is. I think right now the season is over today. So I'm going to keep an eye on it to see if the season can continue on. But I guess for me the main thing has been the offense. At this point, the offense goes, the team goes. The offense sputters, and the L's are coming. It happens against some of the top pitching recently. So that's been the tough part right now. And then everyone blames the bullpen, but three of the losses against the Braves, they scored 3 total runs. That's not going to help.
No, definitely. If you're not scoring runs, that's not going to help. And Mr. Brute Force Brad Weiss, the man of confidence, the man that certainly chided me a little bit when it came to the Braves series. And Mets do have the lead right now, although still I'm definitely a little uncomfortable right now with this game, certainly with the Met bullpen. And what's your impressions right now before I get to Mr. Anthony J. Finkel, and he's got a comment, but what's your thoughts right now on this last week since we last spoke on the Mets?
Yeah, I'll say one thing and just get it out there quick. I was 100% wrong with this Braves series. I said that the Mets were going to win 3 out of 4, and said lost 3 out of 4. But here's the thing, though. I was going to say, well, it's time for me to jump a little bit off the confidence train. Hell no, I'm not getting off the confidence train. I'm still just as confident sitting here today. Because you got to take it to a lot of effect of what happened in the Braves second series. There was a lot of things that happened, starting with the first game where you got a freakish injury obviously from pitcher. You got rain, and then basically the second game, it happens again, where you got Walker and Carrasco back-to-back base coming in early. We have to throw our weak bullpen pieces, right? And looking out of hand, the other one, we didn't score, like Ernest mentioned. And listen, again, it's hard to ask, right, to overcome when a starter only goes 2 innings, right? And then you move from there. It's very difficult. The pitcher game was actually Darren Ruff, who came in and did a great job in the last couple of innings. Ultimately, I'm not that concerned. I think a lot of happened in this series. Game delays, whether it was pitchers coming out early, was one of the reasons why we didn't win games. Obviously, we won the Scherzer game. It was a dumb game. He pitched well. Our off again, like Ernest said, didn't really show up enough. But Max Fried is a good pitcher, so that was going to be a matchup regardless. But like I said, I think the effect of what happened in the race, whether it was short pitching, whether it was rain delays, it was a bunch of things really affected the series. And coming out losing 3 out of 4 could concern some people, but it doesn't concern me. And I think the Mets are showing that winning 5-2, that they're going to bounce back. They're going to win this series against the Phillies. So, no, I'm not concerned, and I'm certainly, Tom Bryce, not going to jump off the confidence train.
All right, but we are having a little bit of an echo here, and Anthony Finkel chimes it out here. I don't know what the issue is here when it comes to the echo. I don't know what is going on here with my settings. I'm trying to adjust them as we speak. So if anybody is listening and wants to, help us out in any way, please let us know. And I will come back to something that Anthony Finkel said in the meantime while I try to adjust my settings. And Brett Beatty's a guy, Ernest, we've spoke about here quite a bit in the past, and it's got to be special for you seeing him in a Mets uniform right now.
Yeah, it's actually kind of watching him live just drop a 2 RBI single in this game right now tonight. It's pretty special. He's a guy. Obviously, first-round pick, so it's not like it's coming out of nowhere. But even you and I, for years, from the time he was drafted, we've been talking about it. And even from the instruction league, when he first turned pro, you and we talked about me reporting on some of the positive vibes. They were talking about his maturity and hard work ethic. Honestly, I'm assuming that if there was a minor league season in the year 2020, Brett Beatty probably would have started this year in the majors. So it's just really exciting to see everything be put together. He's one of those guys they said that had like natural power, but there was a lot of ground balls, a lot of opposite field through the minors. And again, not really comparing the guys, but even from me watching and from the low minors on up, maybe he's one of those Dom Smith type guys in the minors, known for having some raw power, but a lot of it always going off of the field. And maybe they were worried about how it was translating. So even Gary during the show and the SNY, they're talking about maybe some stuff about trying to get him to pull more, put it in the air more, because again, he's also a natural hitter. So you want to hope they don't have the Conforto situation where you get a guy to pull and now he's hitting 200. Obviously, so far, so good with Fred Beatty. And by the way, he even started yesterday against a lefty, probably out of desperation in the roster. But thank God, after some years with Conforto and Nimmo, they couldn't sniff a lefty for like the first year or two in the league. So it's really cool, obviously, as well, to see Brett Beatty actually face a left-handed pitcher. But this is really exciting stuff. The fielding, he's trying to hold his own at this point. You can't overthink it and critique some fielding after 3-4 games. So we'll see how that goes going forward. But again, he ends up being the first guy up. He kind of got pushed and rushed, in my opinion, but it's obviously well-deserved. And look at it. He's already holding his own. He's got a hit. He's got a home run. He has his first walk in like the 3 games. So he's trying to show all the tools right off the bat. So it looks like he's never leaving.
Let's certainly hope not here. And obviously the Mets can definitely use all the offense and the lineup that they can get here. And obviously the brute force here and this Phillies team, I mean, we spoke quite a bit about them last week, and they've played really well right now. And this is a big series. I mean, all these series are big right now for the stretch that the Mets are in. And I mean, I almost feel like that these next couple of days we're not going to have DeGrom and Scherzer. And, what do you think the Mets can do to kind of make up for that?
Well, I think the most important thing is win this game. That's part one. Because obviously tomorrow we're going in with Peterson and Williams. And Peterson's been good. Williams has been good in his spot start when he has to do so. But you can't expect, obviously, to win both games. You hope to split. But the best part is to win tonight. And, Chris Bassitt has to give a good game tonight. Offense does show up. Pete Alonso gets a big home run tonight. As to Ernest's point, Brett Beatty just came up with a big 2 RBI save to go up 7-2. So, you win this game, you likely got one. But the one thing the Mets have done, as we talk religiously on this show about, is that are winning series against the Phillies consistently. I mean, they really not lost the series to this team. They continue to find a way to the Phillies. So I'm not overly concerned. This is a huge series. They need to beat us in one series this season. So ultimately, it's more important for the Phillies. But listen, this is their best chance, as I've said past. The man hasn't shown up yet, but Bryce Harper will be back soon. But they still need to continue the way that they're playing, which is good right now. The Mets have stood in their way over and over again, and that's ultimately what they need to get over. But for the Mets, it's about just taking care of business at worst split series. I know it would be a losing road trip, but in the end, it was a hard road trip for sure. And, you got the Yankees still on that road as well. So I'm not overly concerned. I do see us winning this game as a very important win, and hopefully that leads to winning the series. But right now, we should be happy with potentially winning this game. Hopefully we can do so.
Absolutely, no question about that. This is definitely a big game here for sure. And I want to come back to Ernest Stubb in the meantime while I try to fix some of my technical difficulties because I'm still having significant problems here. And I don't know why. I've actually just contacted support here for our streaming provider StreamYard to see what's the issue. But I mean, we haven't got a chance to talk some minor league prospects. Obviously, Mark Vientos, Francisco Alvarez are the names everybody speaks about. And I mean, what's your impressions on some of the players that also we might see come up for this team in the next remaining weeks of the season?
Well, I know one of the hot names right now is Montes de Oca, and I know Bryce has. He's one of those guys. He got drafted. He was known as a guy who would throw 100 plus, and he completely disappeared, like in the witness protection program for I think it seems like 2-3 years, and it looks like out of nowhere he's come back healthy, and he's made his way up now all the way to AAA. So the question is, with the whole rotating bullpen arms, would a guy like Bryce Montes de Oca be an option? It would be an interesting name as far as upper minors. Obviously, everybody knows about Francisco Alvarez. He's still young. He's had his ups and downs. I know even from A-ball to AA and now in Syracuse, I don't know how often they're throwing him the ball. It looks like he's getting a lot of junk, a lot of sliders. They're trying to avoid him. So it doesn't really say it hurts his development, but obviously at some point you want the stats and the numbers and the box scores to look sexy. He could be pretty interesting because, again, come September, what do you want to do in September? Do you bring up one bat, one arm? Do you go with all rookies? I mean, would you really go with like an Alvarez and then maybe a rookie arm? For a team in the playoff push, you would think they would go more veteran, but that's the thing about the Mets, even going into this season, by the way, out of nowhere, consensus top 10 farm system. Oh my God, they've been like 12 to 15 probably coming into the year. I had some thoughts on that. It was more about guys being really young and not proving themselves. And then the season came, and all of a sudden, there's guys that are even probably overplaying their status going into the season. There's younger guys that have been coming up, having really good years. There's a guy on the St. Lucie Mets who's only a teenager, Junior Tillian, who all of a sudden came out of nowhere, bombing home runs at a young age. That wasn't expected. I know the manager, and there was some talk about things they were working on with him that have been exploring and going forward. But again, yeah, with the farm system, everyone sees what the Braves are doing, and it's like, oh, okay, when are the Mets going to counter and call up like 4 guys? It just wasn't happening. The concerns, obviously, for me was Khalil Lee and Nick Plummer. They're on the 40-man. They're in AAA. All of a sudden, they're hitting 200 the entire season. So it just probably changed the entire dynamic, and that's why I've been saying online and social media, all these platoon bats, and you got the Naquin, you got the Vogelback, and Garen Ruff. It sounds like all these guys and veterans you're acquiring possibly are to help fill those roles of Adam and JG that weren't working out for the majors for the Mets this year. And when you don't have Liam Plummer to call up already, it looks like the deadline moves were more about filling holes like that rather than just bringing in everybody and bringing in the world. So I just don't know of a lot of AAA names to get anyone else excited about. Although, just they were announced tonight on the show, on the game, that Jose Butto is on the taxi squad. He's been pretty exciting. I know even me and you
spoke about quite a bit in the past too. That's a name we spoke about quite a bit.
We've been talking about Butto since 2019 when I had a really awesome source back in the day. And the thing about him was there were people saying that, you know what, I consider Butto the most filthiest guy in low A at the time in 2019. It looks like he's had his ups and downs in the upper levels, probably expected. I mean, it is what it is. You have certain outings, but Butto is a guy that can eat innings. I could see Butto, if he got shoved into the league right now, I don't know about now because I believe he pitched like 1 inning the other night. I don't know how that affects your entire cap for an innings cap, but I think he's the kind of guy, if you rushed him up, he might eat you 6 innings and go 2-3 earned runs, one of those quote-unquote quality starts. I think Jose Butto would have it in him to kind of do something like that, even if he was rushed. So off the top of my head, those are some of the names. I don't know if they'll do the whole Grissom and Harris thing on the Braves, but the Mets have some options with arms and bats. Again, I just don't know maybe the Mets will go with one of my favorites, Nagosic, and keep bringing him back up and keep him up.
Yeah, listen,
Rather
Nagosic,
than
I mean, love Nagosic, and certainly, I don't know if that's the answer. And let me get to a few comments in here from friends of the show, and I'll go with first Carlos Chavez or Carlos Arturo Chavez, I think. So it's happening. Younger guys get brought up. I want to give a shout out to my very good friend, Mr. Joshua Bailey, and he says here, because he's a big Yankees fan, by the way, Mets going nowhere in the playoffs. And Josh, love you, bro, but you might want to be concerned about your Yankees right now. And also, Carlos says, also glad Mets did not get J.D. Martinez or Nelson Cruz, I think he meant. I don't think he meant Victor Cruz, because Victor Cruz right now is probably somewhere on a golf course if he's thinking about the Victor Cruz from the Giants, and not a fan of Nagosic. I mean, listen, we have a bias here on Sportswire Radio because we've had him on a couple times. He's a great guy. I don't know if he's the answer, but, certainly we're always going to root for him. That's for sure here. But, I mean, the brute force obviously now is the Mets here have got a little bit more breathing room here. Anything else? And Carlos says also, yes, Nelson Cruz, sorry. So anything else you want to kind of follow up here with Ernest while I try to get some headphones here and try to cancel out some of the echo?
Yeah, I mean, there was a bunch of good points in Ernest there. Obviously, with the young players coming up, and to see Beatty coming up, obviously, I think spark plug for the team. I think that it shows that are willing and want to win. I think that's extremely important right now because, you can easily keep them down and up. And obviously, everybody talks about, they need more time and stuff. But a guy like Beatty, I mean, he's performing at every level. He went to AAA, he was performing. And the Mets just needed hitting. So, and the one thing about B too is that even in AAA, he was playing left field for the Mets. He was playing third and left field. So his role right now in the Mets is to play third, but he's flexible. I think that's wanting to bring him up as well with his hot bat, his flexibility. So we've heard Vientos. Obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if it comes up at some point. The big name is going to continue to be Alvarez. How desperate are the Mets going to get? When it comes to James McCann and Tosnito. Tosnito has played well, but James McCann has been an automatic out. And at this point, I mean, I know he can catch. I know he can go and get guys out, but at the plate, he's an automatic out. So when is there going to be time, right, for him to come up and make an impact team? I'm not saying it has to happen because he hasn't performed in AAA. So it's not like we should be all excited about it when it comes to his numbers in AAA. But at the same time, his numbers at AAA are just about the same as Buchanan in the majors. Right now, he's just been absolutely horrendous hitting. So, obviously, it'd be nice to see Nino get more at bats as we go. I think he's been solid for us. But I'm sure we'll see how Alvarez continues to progress in AAA. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Vientos. And Beatty should be a guy who's just on this roster because Escobar certainly has not proven he should be the third baseman either. And with Guillorme out, Guillorme is a big to this team. I think he needs to be the guy going forward here, even when Escobar comes back.
All right, here. So we'll certainly see about some of that here, and I want to get to a couple of comments with some of the audio issues of field. Mets issues is health and hitting. Guillorme missing is no good, which brings me back to Ernest Dove here about Louis Guillorme, obviously a name we've spoke about quite a bit, and that's a good point that Carlos makes here with the loss of Luis Guillorme, just how valuable he's been to this team.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll avoid doing the whole spiel on Luis Guillorme that I can do. But yeah, the bottom line is, even when Guillorme would go 0 for 4, he's probably doing a quote-unquote run save for all the metrics and analytics folks. So one way, or maybe he'll go 0 for 3 with a walk. He's been providing the value all year. And then, by the way, he's been getting it. I know the concerns are, well, what is he doing with this or with that or runners in scoring position? You know what? Let the man bat 8th. He's going to hit almost 300, and he's pretty much a platinum glove at 3 positions. And that's the thing, too. Whether it's a righty or a lefty pitcher, it really doesn't matter. He's going to draw that walk. He's going to put the ball in play no matter what it is. And now all of a sudden, even in tonight's game, some of those plays that are either tough or routine, you would think if he was playing second, maybe one or two of those plays is a double play based on how he turns it. Maybe that play at third base is completed. I mean, that's the value of Luis Guillorme day in and day out. One way or another, he's either putting the ball in play, drawing a walk, or he's literally preventing a run, or he's getting the extra out when you need it, turning a double play.
And sorry about that here because I'm still being dogged by this audio issue here, so I almost feel embarrassed. And a few comments in here. McCann is terrible as DH. I mean, listen, don't even get me started on James McCann. Tomas Nito's okay, but this team's depth is well balanced, but can use a few energizer guys. Guillorme forces pitchers to throw 20 pitches. Absolutely, he's probably him and McNeil. Every at bat is crazy. For you, the brute force, I mean, talk to me about some of those things in Louis Guillorme while I still continue to try to fix my audio.
Yeah, I mean, Guillorme's been a huge piece team all year. Played a ton. Like Ernest said, this guy is an absolute unbelievable fielder. I mean, wherever you put him, it doesn't matter. He's still going to be a great glove out there. I think he should deserve more respect for what he does in the field. But his at-bats are always great. And like Ernest said, both sides of the plate, I mean, he has effective at-bats. You don't feel he starts against the left, you have a disadvantage. He works the count, he fouls pitches off, he makes pitchers work. And we've talked about this recently on the show. One of the Mets lineup has done all year long is make pitchers work and make them leave the game early. And I think that, guys like Guillorme, guys like Nimmo, guys like Kenna, McNeil, these guys make pitchers work. And I think that's one of the biggest qualities in our is that we make pitchers work. So that's one thing Luis Guillorme gets credit for. His flexibility in the field, like I said before, he can play in numerous positions. He's going to hit in whatever position hits. So he's been a huge piece of this team, and he's just really missed right now. Like the Mets miss him right now because he provides so much. But at the same time, it's an opportunity for someone else. It's always the announcer is next man up. When somebody goes down, we need somebody to step up. And right now, that's Brett Bates. Like we said, he got a big hit today. He's been solid so far. So we'll see if that continues. And ultimately, if it does, it's just another positive. That's another piece that can potentially help them stretch when it comes. What we talked about a weaker September schedule coming up.
They could certainly use that here as we on Sportswire Radio, and we are speaking. And I have a comment in here, so let me try to fix it. And that's from Carlos. Well, I get to a few of his comments here. I'm glad Pete is not being an after All-Star slump, showing he's maturing. I mean, Ernest, how big has Pete Alonso been for this team?
I mean, you've basically seen a guy, out of the draft, there were projections that he would probably be some 200 hitting DH who would probably hit 40 home runs at his ceiling. And during these years, he turned himself into an absolute complete player. And at this point in 2022, he's a guy who's probably hitting over 280, and he's a 40 with 120 guy. It's been incredible to watch. He had this minor slump of sorts for a week or so, and then he comes right back tonight and hits a home run. He's been the true, absolute, old school, new school definition of a cleanup hitter for years now anyway. When you have a guy like this who literally at any moment can hit a home run, number one, but he can also get a base hit. He can get multiple hits any night of the week. And when you want to talk about clutch, and I know Mets fans or New York fans, Yankees or Mets, it's always going to be about, yeah, you look great, but what are you doing in that one moment of that one game every night? He's showing that as well, breaking 100 RBIs already in August. He's been an absolute complete player. You can bury him and keep him penned in stone in the number 4 spot and just leave him there and thankfully help the team almost every single night. That's the main thing. When you think of power hitting guys, he's got those numbers from when he entered the league. He's pretty much has the most homers of anybody since he got into Major League Baseball. But when you factor in the hit tool that probably nobody saw coming, now at this point, maybe he has some kind of off and on, maybe with the sliders, the out and ways. When he's seeing it right at the plate, he's an absolute danger to every pitcher in baseball. And that's what's been happening this year. The more he can kind of lay off certain pitches, he's a force. It's ridiculous at this point. It's really fun to see.
And certainly that is the case here. And we are on Sportswire Radio, and we are speaking all things here related to the world of Major League Baseball. And I am scared Mets blow this situation with Pete. Is he going to get 300 plus? What do you think about that, the Brute Force?
I'm assuming he's talking about average. Listen, I'm not really worried about that. I think Ernest talked more about what's important, which is the 100 RBIs that he has. He's driving in runners. He's hitting runs, obviously. So, listen, this guy has been, like Ernest said, he's been, such a great cleanup hitter. He comes up in the clutch. He gets his big hits. He's his team. He's one of the leaders. You can just tell based on how he goes about things. So, he is extremely important to the Mets. Obviously, he plays every single day well, which should not go unnoticed because he barely gets any breaks. So he just continues to be the engine in this lineup. And like the guy said too, I mean, he had little slumps. Just had one recently, but he hasn't really let prolong. Like it has an extended slump. He'll have a few series, maybe a series or two, where he'll struggle. Right, but that's been far few and not much between. And he's going to be great for you almost the rest of the time, hitting home runs, driving in runs, hitting the ball in the gaps. Hit the opposite field. Field is something big for him this year. So he's kind of added the full package this year, and it's just been huge for the Mets between him and Lindor. You're talking about almost 200 RBI between the two, and that's been absolutely incredible. The main reason why the Mets are where they are.
Absolutely here, and for sure that is some things happening, and we are on Sportswire Radio, unfortunately having loads of technical difficulties here. I apologize for the delays, and if you are on Sportswire Radio, I would be highly appreciative for a like on Facebook at Sportswire Radio, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our content on sportnarium.com/player. And I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager here at Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryson. I do apologize here for some of the delays, and I will get to a very good friend here in a second. That is Mr. Jason Getz. And I see here, Mr. Brute Force, you want to say anything to Jason Getz? By the way, he showed me a photo recently of himself and you, and you want to say anything about that?
Well, I was saying it for later in the show, but I should do it now. I want to congratulate Jason and James because tonight they won the NCCPA Summer High School League. They won the whole league tonight against Florida. So they're supporters of the show, obviously supporters of myself. They've also done a great job working with me at the NCAA Hicksville Center basketball camps in the last 2 weeks. So these guys obviously a lot to me. So I want to congratulate them on a great game tonight, a great season. They went undefeated as well. Did not lose in the league. So these guys, they're coming. They're definitely ready to have a big season. And surprise people who don't really respect Clark High School, definitely coming. So I want to give them a congratulations, and of course, keep supporting our show as always. But more importantly, thank you guys tonight because you guys are champions. They should be happy.
Normally I would sing, but because we've had so many bad technical difficulties tonight, this is going to be one of the worst performances. And we bring Ernest back. Go figure, right? Ernest is to come back. I'm excited. I'm going to get all these new eyeballs, and yet this is I would normally sing Queen, We Are the Champions, but unfortunately that's not going to be the case because I don't know what I'm going to get out of tonight, unfortunately. But Carlos says congratulations, Jason and the Brute. So no question about all those things here. And let's come back to some other scores of note around Major League Baseball, see if that'll buy me some more time on some technical difficulties. Red Sox, Orioles, get this. It sounds like a Patriots-Ravens score. 15-10 Orioles, top of the seventh. Guardians, White Sox 5-2 after 8. Guardians. Braves 6, Astros 2. Astros, just for whatever reason, met their match with the Braves. Mets 7, Phillies 2. Pirates beat the Reds in a game that doesn't mean much, 5-4. Those Yankees, we're going to get to in a little while, 4-0 shutout for the Blue Jays. They're slumping. Royals get a win over the Rays, 3-2. Angels 1, Tigers nothing. We also have Twins 2, Rangers 1, also top of the 7th. Rockies 7, Giants 1. A's 2, Mariners 1 after 3. Cardinals and Diamondbacks also 1-0 St. Louis. Nationals and Padres scoreless after 2. Marlins, Dodgers top of the first. So those are some things here. And Carlos also says, I am not sure if Pete, going back to his comment, will get that $300 million plus contract. I mean, what do you think about that, Ernest? I feel like it was just yesterday. I was speaking about Pete Alonso being a Rookie of the Year, you watching him in St. Lucie, and now I'm thinking about him and getting $300 million?
Well, here's the thing. With what his biggest tool anyway has been the power, even though all of a sudden he became a complete player. But now, a guy like this, fast forward a couple of years, when he's a free agent, I don't know the exact math on it, if he's going to be age 30 or 31. So now it becomes a matter of, you got a guy, and there's been guys getting 150, 250 plus million contracts at that age between 29, 30, 31. And how does this age? When he's pretty much a walking 40 home run bat, when he's 30 years old and there's already a universal DH anyway, I'm sure that's going to be the allure, even for his agent. It better be. I mean, listen, this guy steps on the field in April, he's probably getting you 40 home runs no matter what. And at the end of it, towards the end of the contract, if you need him to be the DH, he'll be the DH. That's the thing. He's been showing his health. But again, beyond 30, 34, 35, 36 years old, we can't just be the ageless wonder like Nelson Cruz. But with universal DH, does a guy like Alonso, you kind of have to consider giving him about $30 million a year, considering what he's been doing right now. It's going to be pretty fascinating to see how many extra years a guy like Pete Alonso can get to probably try to go for that $300 million. Because again, a first baseman who's huge with power, it ages a little differently than like a center fielder or a shortstop. It's going to be pretty interesting to see, or what would be the version of a team-friendly deal. Again, I got to joke on the Braves. It seemed like they signed every star they have for nothing. So is Alonso going to sign like a $150 million team-friendly deal? I don't know. Will he get like 220 or so, somewhere in the Riley range? I mean, it'll be interesting. He's a little bit older, but again, a 30-year-old power hitter who can probably keep hitting 40 home runs a year for a little while. I don't know if that sounds crazy. He may have to deserve $30 million, especially maybe if you try to lock him up now before he gets to free agency to at least eat up some of the ARB years, maybe the total in general. It's going to be pretty interesting to see, especially the Mets when they still have to somehow pay DeGrom and figure out some of the rest of the roster, and the Pen and Diaz, by the way, who's a free agent. Oh, now we lost our guy.
Tom, we can't hear you.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Here we go.
So, Joey, how am I doing? I'm echoing all evening. That's how I'm doing right now, and I don't know how to fix it. So that's how I'm doing tonight. I have no idea. I have adjusted all my settings. I've rebooted my computer, closed all my options out, and I'm having echo issues. So I'm doing not so great. Anthony Finkel says the Brew Force looks like he needs a coffee. Yeah, that makes two of us right now. I don't even drink coffee. Put in their options. He says he can't hear me. Well, you hear me now, but I'm echoing because I hear the echoing in the background. I have no idea why I'm echoing. He has 2 years of control, but that's a key player. Okay, that as it may. I mean, all great stuff. Let's come back to the Mets. I'll come back to the Mets, but I want to get to the Yankees because now, you know what, the Brute Force, we speak about teams that I'm worried about. We speak about confidence, panic issues. But right now, I'm looking at the Yankees, and now it's definitely time to press the panic button. And now I'm at a point where, you know what? I know we spoke about Aaron Boone, and, I didn't really see that he could be fired. I'm not saying he should be fired, but now I'm definitely worried about the Yankees right now. Now I'm definitely worried. Aaron Boone, I mean, I'll get Ernest's take on it, but they're definitely in trouble.
Yeah, well, speaking of echoing, because I guess that's the theme of the night tonight. Echoing, I'm hearing a lot of echoing of Yankee fans moaning, groaning, and getting a little upset with their team because now I got Tom Bryce, a few weeks ago was ready to press the panic button on the Mets. I'm sorry. If there's a team in New York to start pressing the panic button for, it's the New York Yankees. This is a very serious problem that the Yankees are having now. Because, listen, besides Aaron Judge, who is really in their lineup? I mean, even Aaron Judge has not been the Aaron Judge the last couple of weeks. He's had his spurts, but he's also had some offers. So this lineup is not even, if they don't hit. I mean, their starting pitching went from solid to not solid recently. I mean, listen, Garrett Cole has been up and down. Jameson Taillon, Nestor Cortez. I mean, they just haven't been as consistent in their rotation. And then you get to the Yankees' strength has been the bullpen. And it's not a strength right now. It is a worrisome place for the New York Yankees. You talk about some of their top play homes, who now I believe is injured. Talk about a Chapman who has stunk. He's been horrible. He let up another run again tonight. I mean, he can't find his groove. They have these others like Efros pitching now in key situations. So for me, the Yankees right now, it's a major concern in every department when it comes to pitching, when it comes to fielding, because with Aaron hit center field, that's also a concern. I mean, he's been horrible. You just saw him in like 5 different ways the other night and missed the ball. So, I mean, in the end, it's just a resolving disaster with the Yankees when it comes to hitting, fielding, pitching. I mean, every 10, just to cap it off here, Tom Rice. I mean, the managing with Aaron Boone, I mean, it's definitely a major concern right now. Just because, Aaron Boone, everybody has talked about it over again, and you really get away talking about Aaron Boone. And then you're having to talk about him again because the Yankees are struggling. Nothing's changing, right? And the team that like they were for sure going to be in the World Series when they started the season, you're really questioning whether they can get to the Series now, whether they can get through the Astros. And now we're starting to question whether they get through some teams like Seattle. So I'm very concerned with the Yankees. I mean, I'm not concerned to the point people saying, oh, well, you can playoffs. No, they're going to make the playoffs. They're probably in their division. But this is about what the Yankees are going to do in the playoffs. And when we were talking about this earlier, it was all about they're going to World Series. And now I can't say that with confidence. They're not looking great. They need a turnaround desperately. And the energy needs to come from the manager. We all know the manager has been a big topic of conversation because he is simply, a guy who he's smart, but he doesn't make smart decisions at times. He doesn't bring energy. And ultimately, Yankee fans have heard this story over and over. None of them do not see Boone manage this team. And they finally quiet down with the Yankees starting to play really well. But now that they're struggling, the Boone Boo Birds coming back, it's certainly a concern. So, I mean, Ernest, I got to think you got some of the same beliefs in the Yankees. This is a bad run they're on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to see it from the Yankees' perspective. But even some of the roster, they got the shortstop who doesn't really show much power. Donaldson, I know, I've been hearing some of those Terry Collins-esque press conferences where you want to talk about his fabulous leadership and defense. But it looks like Donaldson is really not kind of holding his own at all. I know Rizzo with the old school batting average is not good, but he's still hitting the home runs. Without Stanton adding in the 40 home runs with Judge, I'm sure that kind of affects the entire lineup. And then, like you said, I mean, when the bullpen has Chapman and Loaisiga, not what you remember, and then you have the other guys that are okay. Pylon's been okay. I mean, he's still there. These guys are still doing well with the 4-ish ERAs are kind of hanging around. Nestor's being great still, but not really sure why they traded Montgomery still. But I don't know what depth that they saw and they were happy with. I mean, you can't really do the hindsight because he's had a hot streak, but that's something Mets fans would go absolutely insane for if that was happening right now for 3 or 4 starts. But I mean, again, they built up such a monster lead. But typical Yankees fans, when you're used to winning, we might as well wait till October and worry about it. But it looks like you're going to have to once again worry about it. It's going to be pretty fascinating to see, even between the Mets and Yankees. Mets are stretching the bullpen and waiting for their collapse with the fans. The Yankees are expecting their playoffs, but now they're already pissed that they're not going to win a World Series because of Boone or because of somebody else. Then you got Gallo and Montgomery looking fantastic elsewhere, just to kind of piss them off some more. It's been pretty fascinating to watch. I just don't know. I don't know what else about the Yankees. I mean, I would assume they're going to win the division again anyway, like always. It looks like they're on track, but it's a different way to hold on to your lead and your wins once the playoffs roll around. And with that bullpen, and unless Stanton and Judge are hitting a bunch of monster home runs, it's going to be pretty fascinating to see what can go right or wrong.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, the other thing is, and again, we haven't talked about these teams as much just because of the fact that the Yankees are far.
Oh.
But I mean, listen. We talk about the other teams' division. We talk about Baltimore, Tampa Bay, Toronto, Boston. And 3 of those teams just beat the Yankees series. So, when it comes to that, you got to be conservative. Getting the series to get against the team that you guys dominated. And then when you talk about Baltimore, they're not they just worry about everything goes down there too. So it's gonna be easy, that's for sure.
All right, and unfortunately, I've had major technical difficulties here. I think I actually fixed the echo issue, so I feel like I'm not echoing anymore. So hopefully that will improve things. And we're joined right now by Rob Maraska. And Mr. Maraska, how are you? Hopefully you're better than some of our technical difficulties here tonight.
Yeah, I was listening. It sounds like an echo chamber, and I think it's still going on.
Okay. Well, hopefully, I feel like. Are you still hearing echoing?
When I'm talking, I hear echoing, but not when you're talking.
Well, at least that's the good news. But obviously, we're speaking a little bit about some different things. I know I'm a little bit behind here, but we'll come back to the Yankees in a second. But Mr. Maraska, give me your thoughts right now on the New York Yankees.
Well, the Yankees, I think maybe it's time for the Yankees to panic, like you guys are just.
Well, they're panicking right now, like our technical difficulties here.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about it, briefly the last couple of weeks about if the manager is in trouble, and you know what? I've said it before. If the Yankees don't go far in the playoffs, I think he's in trouble, even though the Yankees are now cheap. And George isn't around. The fans are going to go nuts. If the Yankees do not make it long in the postseason, something's got to change.
Absolutely, no question about it here. And we're joined back in here by Ernest Tubb. And Ernest, I think you were infected also by some technical difficulties there.
Yeah, I was just trying to see if what magical move I could try to make to see if probably it's just the link itself, because if we all
No, I
do the
think it's
do-si-do
just
on and
one of
on.
those things. I noticed with me, I had an air conditioner on in the background. I turned my air conditioner off. I turned my TV off. So maybe that helps a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I'm still getting some issues. Carlos Chavez tells me that the sound still doesn't sound good. I don't know what to tell you. We'll try to make do of what we can here tonight. I do apologize, but Mr. Maraska did make some points here about before I come back to the brute force and the fact that Aaron Boone, if they don't go far, he's definitely in trouble. I mean, I think that's something we spoke about last week on the show. Now, to me, the way this team has stumbled the last 2 months, I definitely think it's actually pretty real.
I think so too. You know what? Something's got to be done. The Yankees had like an amazing start this year. It was unbelievable, and now they're just falling apart. I mean, the Mets had hit a little bump in the road in Atlanta, but that's nothing compared to what's going on in the Bronx.
Well, for you, Ernest, I mean, what do you make of all that?
Well, with the Yankees still too,
Yep.
I mean, at some point, we're not supposed to all freak out over every win and loss, but now when you have both New York teams being in the playoffs, it'll be really fun if they're both succeeding. But it looks like, are their faults and their miscues at the deadline that people think is a miscue, is everything going to come crashing down in the playoffs when it should be super exciting for the biggest market out there in sports? Maybe it'll ruin the fun and ruin the party, but I mean, who knows? Maybe some guys will get healthy, and once those lights start shining in the playoffs, they'll find the right mixture of certain starters in the pen, and it could change things up with how the bats start showing up in October anyway.
All right. And the brute force, Brad Weiss, I actually wanted to get you back in here, but I don't see your mic connected. Can't hear you, the brute force. I can't hear you. Yeah, it's one of those nights. What can I tell you? Unfortunately, that's what happens in radio. You get these nights and, it happens. It could be StreamYard. It could be a number of different things. I don't think I still hear you, the brute force. I can't get you back in here. Are you there, the brute force?
I see him.
We see him, but try to log in. Log out and log back in. That's what would be my advice to you, the brute force. Try to log in and log back out. We'll come back to you in a second. Unfortunately, that's kind of been the evening here, more or less. But let's come back to Rob Maraska. And Yankees can still win it out if they play small ball and force opposition to play different and pitchers to make mistakes. But it doesn't seem to me right now that the Yankees are able to do that because the lineup's not hitting it all together.
No, they're not hitting. They are definitely in a slump. Like, you know what? It's the middle of August, and now's the time not to slump. But
right.
The Yankees are going to make the postseason no matter what. I know you're making a face, but you know what? They always do. So I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, but you know what? Making the postseason, though, I don't think that's good enough after the start that you had. I don't think even winning the division, scraping by with the division, I don't think that's good enough right now for Yankee fans. I think, and understandably so. So, those are some good points. And Carlos says small ball helps slumps. That's why teams do that. Yeah, but this team's not hitting all together. The Brute Force, Brad Weiss. Are you back with us?
Can you hear me?
Much better. There we go. Much better. Hopefully, we've got some of our problems fixed. If anybody else wants to let us know if there's still some echo issues, please let us know. But the Brute Force, it's been one of those nights. We're having a night right now similar to the Yankees at the moment here. And, we're speaking about Carlos Chavez, and he talks about the fact that the Yankees haven't been able to win, and maybe they can win by playing small ball, but you can't play small ball if you're not scoring any runs altogether.
And the issue with that is we religiously talk about this with the Mets. The Mets are a team that has played, singles and doubles baseball where, they hit the ball, they make contact, they put it in play. The Yankees are not built with that roster to be doing that. They're a home run or die team. They're a hit the ball hard or die team. or strikeout or die team. Small ball is not in their DNA. They don't have somebody on the roster that can play small ball. And ultimately, yeah, I could see them trying. I just don't think they're going to be successful with it. And ultimately, the only way they're successful is if they're hitting the ball hard and hitting the ball far. Of course, at Yankee Stadium, sometimes that means hitting the ball to right field, which isn't that far. So, listen, in the end, right, it's a slump. The Yankees couldn't be stopped earlier this season. They did everything.
Well, we were speaking about him, and at one point, in Joey Bostrom, thank you, Joey, for the confidence. Now I feel like life's going to be better because he says the sound is better. So thank God. So we can go and have the second half of the show then. But there was a point we were speaking about this team, 116 plus wins we were looking at. And Carlos also says sound is better. So thank God there is a God after all. But I mean, to me, I can't explain it anymore.
No, I mean, listen, this is, like I said before, it's legitimate panic time for the Yankees. I think if there is a panic button, it's time to panic. And, and people think I'm saying that just because of how they're playing now and how it's not going to affect them making the playoffs. It's not going to affect them winning the division. It's not going to affect them in another couple different ways.
Well, I just want to say one thing, though, when it comes to making the playoffs, and everyone's going to, laugh at me. I look at the Yankees' record right now, 73-47. That record sounds good, but what were they, 62-24 at one point?
Yeah, I mean, they were ridiculously over 500. It was unbelievable. They have really struggled.
Toronto's only 8 games back ahead of them. I got news for you. God forbid the Yankees lose these next 2 games. Toronto's 6 games back.
No, it's true, but I still, listen, I'm not worried enough that they're not going to make the playoffs, and I really think they're still going to win the division, but Yankee fans could care less about that. They know they're going to make the playoffs.
Oh, well, listen, if you're 6 games back, hey, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of baseball left to be played. And Carlos also agrees with me here. 10-plus games to some teams. And he also says here the Yankees have issues because their pitching is not going deep. But that's like everybody else in baseball. So, I mean, those are some things here that we are on here on Sportswire Radio for. A very happy, relieved here, Reverend Tom Bryce, because sound is improved. We've got the gang here. We've got the old Sports Report team here. The whole crew is back here from the old days before we were doing the video and just the audio. That is Rob Morosco, our longest tenured analyst. Ernest of the Honorable MC Ernest, who, by the way, you can follow on Twitter at Ernest of. Also, the brute force Brad Weiss. You can follow at BWeiss20 on Instagram. Brad Weiss on 20. Also, Snapchat Bradley Weiss. Also, Facebook Bradley Weiss. Make sure you follow the whole gang here. R. Morosco on Twitter as well. And if you're on Facebook, do give us a like on Facebook at Sportswire Radio. And Joey Bostrom says here, that division lead is getting small. It is definitely getting smaller, friends, here. Definitely, listen, I'm going to be honest. I'm definitely pushing the panic button right now. And Carlos Chavez here makes a good point. Let's come back to that. And that is Baltimore is hot because they have pitchers and 2 guys in the minors who can move up if needed be. I want to come to Ernest up here because, Ernest, we spoke a lot about the minor leagues in the past. And obviously, the Baltimore Orioles are one of those teams that's had a great farm system. And they've been bad for a long time. And I mean, Ernest, what do you make of Baltimore in this season, especially the last second half? I mean, I look at right now, and I look at the Phillies, and I look at the Orioles, right? The Orioles, for a long time, obviously, nobody thought they'd do anything this year. And since pretty much right around the Yankees have slumped, they've put themselves right in a position where they're right here in this playoff race here with the extra wild card. And the Phillies, since they fired Joe Girardi, they've been one of the best teams in baseball. And how do you explain Baltimore this year, the Honorable MC Ernest Stubb?
I mean, the one thing that I do know about the Baltimore Orioles, whether it was a year or so ago, I was hearing some rumblings about hey, the Orioles, they may or may not be even preventing certain prospects from getting up. And I think they were trying to group them together at the time, I think in AA. So the Orioles have been plotting and scheming about this for a little while now. Nothing negative on it. I think they were trying to find a new core in the minors. With prospects, you never know. But my understanding was, for better or worse, rather than maybe promote those guys to AAA right away, there were a couple they were kind of leaving back. And they were kind of grouping them up to play together, at least I remember in the AA level. And it's like, while they're sitting here tanking, by the way, they have some kind of stud prospects that they've been purposely kind of playing together for a little bit, some stretches in the minors. And then, it doesn't always happen that easily, but look at you now. some of the guys that were kind of being grouped up are finding their ways finally up the ladder, and they're showing right up, just kind of destroying things. And there was some pitching that was pretty good either way. You never know when these things are going to blow up, especially when teams have their versions of the Mets as bred babies. But if you have like 3 of them showing up, and the Braves have their guys when they have certain guys going down from the beginning.
Well, Vaughn Grissom is the name that the Brute Force brought up a little while ago. I mean, Vaughn Grissom. I mean, look at this guy. He's got all these tattoos on the side of his arm, and the guy looks like he's a 10-year pro already.
And I know even with the there was like the situation, I think this year, or it's been showing, like there's been a lot of top 10 drafted catchers who are just not looking the part as they've made their way up the levels to the majors. But hey, now with the Orioles, like certain guys have kind of finally made it, but they're panning out here and there. And that's why you honestly never really know. Even the Guardians kind of be really, really competitive. I mean, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah,
and
but you know what? The Guardians, though, they have a good manager, though. Terry Francona is a great manager. So I kind of thought the Guardians, that's not a great division. In a sense, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, that's the right combination of things. Or even with Philly, everyone jokes about the Phillies where, hey, they kind of acquired a bunch of DHs, and then Harper goes down, and they all got to play the field. But all of a sudden, up until I think tonight's game, it looks like there were a few miscues on the Phillies end. But I don't know. I mean, some of these guys, and then that's the thing. The Orioles, you think they're selling, and yet they're still winning because some of the young guys, I don't think they care about who you sold. They're out there trying to prove themselves at the same time. So it almost becomes an upgrade while you're downgrading at the same time. And maybe for Philly, you always want to be worried a little bit about the Phillies because if Harper ever comes back, even if he has to be a DH, he'll have more DHs out there. But if he comes out, hits like a 15-homer month, it could be pretty interesting because again, expanded playoff.
By the way, and that's what he was doing exactly before he got hurt. He was hitting all over the place. He had 20 RBIs in 17 games or something like that. I got a ton of comments here, and I want to get some of the guys back in here. And he also, from Carlos, says Baltimore's catcher is legit. Their defense is getting balanced, and they have grit. And Joey Bostrom wants to remind, which I did point out when we had some technical difficulties. Now we're back to normal, so I guess it's good to bring up the scores again. Thank you, Joey, for reminding us. And I would say, guys, am I looking at a Patriots and Ravens score here rather than Red Sox and Orioles? But to be fair, a lot of Red Sox games. Wasn't the Blue Jays Red Sox 26-5 last month or something like that? We were on the air one game. I think it was 25-6 or something. Then it was 18-4 or something like that. So Boston's played a lot of those games here like that. And Carlos says Yankees hoard players and are just collecting dust. And also Carlos reminds me Mancini gone and not missing a beat. And also Baltimore can be more dangerous than Toronto. I don't know about that. I'll come back to the Brute Force and I'll get to him and also Ernest in a second. But I want to come back to Rob Morosky. I mean, what do you make of Baltimore? I mean, they're still right there. We spoke about them last month. Justin Gianelli was like, maybe they'll drop off. I don't know. They're young. They're playing above head. But you know what? Right now, I look and they're over 500 and they're in the mix of this whole additional wild card here. I mean,
well, you know what it is. They're young and really they are playing to prove themselves and they have nothing to lose, really. They have nothing to lose. They weren't expected to do anything this year. So there's no pressure on these kids. And it's great that they're up in the major leagues. They're getting at bats. They're seeing major league pitching. Baltimore has a pretty good future, I think. So, Yankee fans better start worrying about Baltimore one of these days because right now they're playing better than we thought they were going to play in the beginning of the year. And they don't have Matt Harvey, so that's a plus too.
So I knew that was coming in there. That was a zinger. And I also want to update everybody that the New York Mets have won over the Philadelphia Phillies. And I'm not going to lie. I know that the Brute Force will really get on me before I come to him. If the Mets had lost to the Phillies here, that would make it now 4 of the last 5 games we would have lost. Okay, I would have been a little worried on this team. But the Mets do get a much-needed win here. And Carlos also says Baltimore fans getting their money's worth this season. Well, certainly I do hear the Orioles games. To go to an Orioles game, it's a lot cheaper than going to a Mets or Yankees game. That's what I have heard. So, I mean, certainly you're definitely getting your money's worth and some. But the Brute Force, I want to ask this question to you in a different way. I know I've asked it in a minute here with Joey Bosham. I'll get to him. But I know I've asked this in the past, but is there something to a young team that is playing with grit, has no expectations? They do move Trey Mancini, their longest tenured player, and they're still pretty much right there, and I think they're here to stay. I mean, with 44 games left in the season, after title will be 43. I mean, is there something to a team just playing with house money, and they might be maybe to the point of Carlos? Maybe they're more dangerous than any other team out there.
Yeah, Tom, I think the perfect example right now when you talk about the Baltimore Orioles is last season's SJLI Golden Eagles. Because, we had been very poor for years and years, and they were a young team with a lot of new pieces, and they had to put it together. And when they put it together, they were very scary. I think Baltimore is in that situation right now where, they've been putting this puzzle together. It's kind of been piece by piece, but eventually now they're starting to put it together, and they're playing great baseball. And you go down the list of their lineup. You got a guy like Mullins, who's been.
We've talked about him quite a bit, over the past several weeks. Yep.
Rushman, Santander, another guy who I don't think anyone talks about.
I think people think about the name Santander to their bank account. I know, at least for me, I have a Santander checking account. That's what they would think about.
Mountcastle, Hayes, Rougned Odor, who's actually been.
Rougned Odor, yeah, he's been around, and people were like, "Huh? He's still in the starting lineup?"
Yeah, and you got Urias and Jorge Mateo. So there's a lot of guys in that lineup that people are like, huh, who's that? But at the same time, I mean, these guys are batting 250, 260. That's very respectable in today's MLB. There's guys hitting for average, hitting for power. And tonight, they got 18 hits. I mean, that's a lot of hits for the Orioles.
That's like a Brew Crew game almost. That's like when the Brew Crew plays there at Roosevelt Field or Jones
not
Beach Park.
lately, but, in the past, yeah.
I was trying to be kind.
But, listen, it's awesome with Baltimore. And like the guys said before, I mean, they have the pitching. Their pitching has been solid all year long. Their hitting has done the job. And surprisingly, one of the things we talked about with Camden Yards was that, hitting a home run in left field was easy. But they moved that fence back, and it's actually, from what I said earlier in the season, I said it was a detriment. It hasn't been. It's actually been helping them, this season. So, listen, Baltimore, again, is a team to be reckoned with. I think it's a scary team. If they make the playoffs and, let's say a Yankees team or somebody ends up having to play them, they're not a team I would want to see. They're a very scary team. They have the pieces. They're young. They have, they're like the guy said, they don't have any expectations. So they're playing, right? And they're not playing for a certain expectation. They're just playing hard.
It kind of reminds us, the Brute Force, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of our beloved then SJC Long Island Golden Eagles, our SJC New York Golden Eagles, where we were speaking about the team, and we thought they would be competitive, but we didn't know the way they were going to play, and it wound up as the season went on. The guys played well enough and got into the postseason.
And that's why exactly when I started this with that comparison. I think it's a great comparison because it's a young team that's building, that's starting to show, right, what they've built is now they're putting it together. And, when we all predicted the Orioles to have less than like 60 wins, and they have 61 wins already.
I was listening to one of our podcasts on Sportswire Radio. I don't remember what show it was, and they were like, they thought Baltimore would top out at 65 wins, and here we are. Baltimore, if they win tonight, would have 62 wins already with 43 games left to play, guys. I mean, think about that for a second.
Oh, it's insane. I mean, it's insane to think that. And, we all talked about it. Remember, early in the year, we talked about, all right, well, in the NL East, who's going to beat the Nationals the most? And then the AL East, who was going to beat Baltimore the most?
That AL East is a tough division, though. That I got to tell you, that AL East with the Yankees, Toronto, you got Tampa, Baltimore.
It's been pretty obvious that the best division in baseball has been the AL East because of the way Baltimore's playing. And there's no weak team in that division. Even Boston, I mean, I know they've struggled, but they're still at 500 right now. So, it's a good division. And the whole thing with stomping on the Orioles, there's no stomping on them anymore. They're a respectable opponent.
No question about that. They're more than a respectable opponent. They're definitely a team that could make the postseason. Let me get to a couple of different comments. Joey Bostrom says it wouldn't surprise me if Baltimore got that last wild card spot. I'll tell you what, Joey, they're definitely right there. And Carlos Chavez says, Odor, LOL, he's a grinder and gives you a decent glove. Reminds me, Ernest, of Louis Guillorme in that sense. How Louis Guillorme is a grinder for us. And you would have appreciated it, Ernest, because in the New York Post, this past Sunday, who was in the paper that Steve Serby did a Q&A on? It was Luis Guillorme. It was a really nice article. They talked about the beard. They talked about the whole background, and it was a great read. And definitely, I thought about you there when I was reading that Monday morning. And Carlos also says it took a while for Baltimore to get there. Contracting the minors forced them to move these kids up and changing their contract situation here. Yep, absolutely all great things here, to say the least. And looking over to the MLB standings here very quickly, and we are seeing where we are right now when it comes to things. And currently at the moment in the American League East, we've got the Yankees, as I stated, up by 8 over Toronto, 9 in Tampa. Baltimore's going to be 10.5 now with a win, most likely. And then Boston's kind of, I think, pretty much faltered here in the Central. We've got a 3-team race with Cleveland ahead of Minnesota, although Minnesota, I would say, has 3 games on hand. So that very well could make the difference. They're a game and a half behind. Those White Sox just can't figure them out. 3.5 there, but they've pretty much been a whole year between 2 and 3.5 games. You've got Detroit and Kansas City pretty much, they're dead and buried. Houston's running away with things. Seattle's in one of the wild card spots. Everybody else in the American League West is dead and buried. We've got the Braves 3.5 behind the Mets. In that last series that those teams face off late in the year could very well be a difference maker. Phillies 11 back, but they're in a wild card spot. Then you've got the Nationals, as the brute force pointed out. They're pretty much everybody's a layup, and then Miami's kind of where they are. Cardinals are ahead of the Brewers by 3.5. Cubs, Pirates, and Reds, you could flip a coin. You've got the Dodgers pretty much far and away the best team in baseball. The Padres also in one of those spots. You've got the Giants, who I think have kind of showed that last year was an aberration, and that's kind of where we are. I mean, for you, Ernest, we haven't had you on in a while, and I'll come back to the guys in a second, but I mean, of some of those standings that I read off, anything that caught you by surprise?
Well, I mean, like a lot of the stuff we've all been saying, the Red Sox and White Sox situations are probably not what they expected or their fans.
I think the White Sox for sure.
Yeah, they, and then all of a sudden Seattle, they had to be buyers at the deadline because, like, hello, they're like, all right, we're in it now. We're ready to rock. They have a new absolute star. I guess we'll avoid the Kalenic discussions because they have the other guy who's been an absolute stud.
Hey, who would have thought that? All those years ago, Ernest, when we were on the podcast with the guys here, we were speaking about the Mets, and who would have ever thought that would have been the case right now with Edwin Diaz? We all would have said, yeah, right.
Yeah, it's been an interesting run. I know it, but it's looking at the standings, teams like the Mariners instead of the Red Sox and White Sox and the Orioles. I mean, it's going to be a whole different teams, even with expanded playoffs. Like, oh man, you're going to have certain teams in it. Actually, it's the ones you expected that are the outside looking in, even right now with over 40 games to go. And what in the NL, Milwaukee's kind of been up and down. San Diego with their super team, they're still struggling to try to hang on to a wild card spot. So it's going to be pretty fascinating coming down to the end. Everybody be worried about the Mets and Braves, but again, the Braves have a much tougher September schedule. So by the time they even play again, the hope for all Mets fans would be that it's already over based on the Braves September schedule. But then again, right now, the Braves are beating up on the Astros for a night. So maybe their September schedule won't be tough because of how good they are anyway. So it'll be pretty fascinating to watch till the end because I just, like you said, at this point, though, the NL almost in a way is going to be locked up for certain wild card spots right now, unless the Giants, like you just said, they were a little bit older of a team that did amazing last year. Maybe it's catching up to them quick. But outside of the main 3 or 4 teams battling for 3 or 4, with the wild card spots, everything else, hopefully it's going to kind of go as advertised as it is right now. But again, some of the changes in the teams it's pretty interesting to see teams like the Mariners and Orioles instead of the Red Sox, White Sox, based on expectations.
I mean, the White Sox still theoretically could come back, but they just seem to me stuck in perpetual motion. And I have a comment for you, Ernest, but before I get to that, I have Joey Bostrom saying that AL Central race is going to be good. Yeah, it's been good, but I mean, who's going to come out with 86 wins? I mean, I guess, but I'll come back to something else Carlos said. But for you, Ernest, he says, what would be your feelings when Tatis comes back? How about you other guys? Padres will move him next year. I mean, yeah, we can go around the room. We can talk about the Tatis news for sure. We can definitely talk about that for sure and get some guys' reactions further on. I know we spoke a little bit about it, I think, last week, but we can certainly bring it up because we have you here, Ernest. But I mean, what do you make of that? I mean, will the Padres move him? Because there's still a guy they have on the team named Soto, and they don't have him locked up long term. So, I mean, what do you make of that whole situation there with Fernando Tatis Jr.?
Well, now I can't really – can we even think of comparisons to this level with some of this stuff like this going down at the beginning of like a 12-year contract? I mean, we've seen this before in sports, in multiple sports. We know what's going on in the NFL. I mean, there's some strange stuff that's been happening with certain things when the outside stuff is coming into play. But a guy like Tatis with this multiple motorcycle situation, and then with this going on at the beginning of a 10-plus year deal, I mean, I don't even know how you can fathom them. Sometimes you try to part ways with certain guys. I mean, maybe we have to go with the crazy Cano example just to make things pretty interesting for the show. But maybe this is going to be pretty amazing to see a guy that's this young. Although I think, what was it? Was it Healy? One of the Mets beat writers was kind of getting really blunt about talking things about a Tatis, where was he a little bit overrated to begin with? But how do you part ways with a guy that's so young and just be like, nah, we're done with this, or the attitude or that, with the excuses? How do you even go about figuring out moving anyone with a $340 million contract, regardless of age? You can't really pull even a Cano when you're trying to buy out some of the money in a trade, but there's a difference between buying out some of that money in the Mets deal and then buying out $341 million or $340 million. It's just one of those things where possibly at the end of the day, everyone's going to say a prayer and wait till next year and be like, all is forgiven. He meant so. They may have to just kind of figure it out, because I don't see how. What are you going to do? You're not. Who's taking him? Don't just pull the Steve Cohen thing. I don't think the Mets want any part of that. They got too much going on already.
And the Mets still got to lock up DeGrom. Listen, don't forget, the Mets got to lock up DeGrom still. You got, as Carlos pointed out, the Alonso situation down the road. I don't think the Mets can really afford to go up in there and say, you know what, let's take a shot at Fernando Tatis Jr. here. And also a couple of comments before I get to some of the guys here. And he also brings up Joe Mauer's career was jacked up. It messed up the Twins with his contract. Yeah, but Joe Mauer, I don't know if I'd compare necessarily with the Tatis. I mean, I see your point, but there's a lot of contracts you could bring up. I mean, listen, Ryan Howard had a big contract. I remember years back. I mean, the Pulos contract. I mean, listen, Miguel Cabrera is going to be playing until he's, 65 at this point, I mean, with his contract. I mean, there's a long list of comments. Listen, Jason Hayward's contract. I mean, there's a lot of guys who got big contracts, and all of a sudden they got hurt or something stupid in there. But, I mean, for you, Rob Roscoe, didn't get a chance to really ask you in the Fernando Tatis Jr. situation. I mean, what do you make of that whole situation?
You know, he's suspended for 80 games, and, what a mess. But I'm not going to compare him to Cano because of the age. I can't see right now. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. No one does. But I can't see San Diego giving up on him. I mean, look at all the talent. Look at that contract. They're just next year. We're gonna, like Ernest said, we have to see what's going to happen next year. And you know what? They're gonna take his age into consideration, and he's gonna get another shot. Definitely. That's what I think anyway. But
he has to. I mean, listen, you put, like Ernest pointed out, you've put all that money into him. I mean,
yeah, he has to. I mean, they can't just give up on him, and I don't think they're going to. He's going to come back. He's going to say all the right things. the Padres are going to say all the right things, and we're going to have to see what happens then. That's all. I mean, he's too good, and that contract's just unbelievable. So that's what's got to happen. That's what's got to happen.
Absolutely, no question about it. I know the brute force that we had asked you about, Fernando Tatis Jr., last week, so I'll come back to somebody else that's also causing some problems, although for whatever reason, it doesn't still seem to affect the Atlanta Braves. And Carlos had brought up the point about Marcell Ozuna, who was obviously arrested on DUI. Now, I want to ask you this question, the brute force, because you obviously being a player, and I know you, I've gotten to know you, I've watched games with you, you're a very serious player. You're a guy that when you were on the court, even now, you're coaching, do a number of different things. You don't try to get distracted by anything. And I know I've got to know your father. And by the way, we'll give your father in a little while a happy belated birthday wish, because now that everything's good with the audio and stuff, we can definitely talk about some of those things. But I mean, how would you feel about this distraction here that Marcell Ozuna has cost the Atlanta Braves? And I think a follow-up is, which I'll bring everybody in on, I mean, I got to think he's on borrowed time in that uniform.
Yeah, well, first of all, these are the things that I, as a coach, do not tolerate at all. Because, first of all, if I'm going to take it as a coach first. If I was a coach, he'd be off the team. He's done. Because not only is he not doing the right thing when it comes to DWI, but he's also not playing well in the field either at this moment. So it's double duty for him that he needs to be off the team. And this is just pathetic. I mean, these type of behaviors was DWI,
Why couldn't he take an Uber? These guys make like, what, 20 plus million a year? You're telling me that he didn't have money in his credit card for an Uber?
I mean, no, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's disgusting. I mean, it's flagrantly awful. I mean, like I said, if I was a coach, he'd be gone. If I'm a player on his team, I mean, I'm obviously really disappointed about this. This does not make me happy because you're representing the team. And when you go and do that, video leaked of it as well. When it came to what happened, I mean, to represent himself as an Atlanta Brave and think he was going to get away with it. I mean, come on, man. Like, really? Like, this is not acceptable behavior. And as a player on that team, if you're truly committed to winning on that team, you would not do that and you would not put yourself in that place. You would take an Uber because you had the money. So that was just straight dumb decision. To me, it shows that he doesn't give a damn enough, right? About the team and winning. That's what is important to me. You have to care. If you're going to go out there and you're going to go through that behavior and put yourself at risk and think, I'll get home. Don't worry. I'll get home. I'll make it. That is not the right decision. And now that he gets caught, right? And Marcell Ozuna, this is not the first time he's done something. He's had a history of doing bad things. So again, Atlanta, I think he needs to be gone. And I personally think as a teammate, I would be pissed. And certainly the trust level for this guy would be very low.
Ernest, I always think about all the players, right, that we had the pleasure to interview together over the past few years. I think about the stories of Marcel Renteria, Connor O'Neill, Trey Cobb, Steven Nagosic, obviously, and Cody Bohanec. I mean, it's a long list of players, right? And I know how much those guys would kill to have an opportunity to wear that uniform. And Steven Nagosic has had his ups and downs in the Mets organization. And then I hear about this guy, Marcell Ozuna, who's making a fortune, who's a huge part of things with the Atlanta Braves. And you mean to tell me that he couldn't call an Uber?
Well, that's why I've been saying it now. Like, I feel like forever. I think the NFL has a whole system set up for free transportation 24/7, 365 days a year. And yet there's still NFL players that do this every once in a while that you see hit the news. I don't really get it. Is he going to play for the team again? Well, considering the Braves have been pumping out new stars now this year to even replace all these guys anyway, and I think we're going on year 2 of him being kind of absolutely awful on the field offensively.
Yeah, he's just not been the same player. He used to be a Met killer too, by the way, with the Marlins.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's been hitting some home runs. I can't really discount, a guy who's still hitting some home runs this year, but he's not really doing much, if anything else, on the slash lines. And he may not even have a spot as it is. So do they have to go ahead and quietly let that go for a team coming off a World Series and they're ranked as one of the top 5 teams in baseball again this year? I don't even think they need to even have to deal with it. I thought it was interesting. He's showing up in the clubhouse like immediately. I would have thought you wouldn't even see him, period. So should I overreact or overthink just to simply the point of them even allowing him to show up? Is that helpful? Saying they're going to kind of do some damage control and bring him back, but I think with the run they've been on again this year, coming off a World Series, coming off the two young stars, where one of them was already replacing Acuna, who, by the way, is back now, probably looking more and more to himself anyway, day to day. What would be even the point of him being there as a fourth outfielder or look for the power now and then? I don't even know if they want to worry about it. I don't want to just blame it, call it a headache. But even like the brute force was saying, it's not like this was, oh my God, this came out of nowhere. He's already been in the news anyway once. So, fool me once, shame on you. Do the whole thing. But I just think whether they were a last place team or a top 5 major league caliber team, I think either way, what would be the point right now?
Rob Morosco, I want to ask you on Marcell Ozuna, as we're here speaking all things related here to the world of Major League Baseball with Rob Morosco, the return of the Honorable MC Ernest Tubb, and of course the legendary brute force Brad Weiss of the SJC New York Golden Eagles, Plainview JFK Hawks, Long Island Nets, and much, much more. I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager of Sportzwire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. But Rob Morosco, I got to think from a PR standpoint, the longer the Atlanta Braves don't really do anything on this, it has to look bad on them as well, no?
Definitely. Well, let's start off by saying, how arrogant can you be? Okay, he's not doing much this year. Ernst said he's hitting some home runs, but other than that, what is he doing?
Everybody hits home runs these days in about 210.
Well, why is he out at 4:30 a.m.? Okay, if you're not playing well, why are you out all night long? Why are you
goes to my point about the brute force, and he played. He was a college basketball player for 4 years. I know the brute force. I wouldn't catch him out past 10:30. Well, maybe 11:30. But the point is, 4:30 in the morning?
Yeah, so what's he doing out at 4:30? Why is he driving his own car? That's ridiculous. Like the NFL has free rides for everybody all year, which is a good thing in a way, but also these guys need free rides. Come on.
That's my thinking. These guys make so much money. They really need a free ride. I'm sure their credit cards got to be like bronze, gold, and platinum and silver combined.
Yeah, definitely. And let's get to the Braves clubhouse now. If I was a manager of the Braves, I would call him out in front of everyone. I would make an example of him. His teammates should be making an example of him, out of him. They should be giving it to him. I can't believe the gall of just walking in that clubhouse. It's not one mistake. He's made other mistakes. And you know what? I would if I was his teammate, I would definitely have something to say to him. And I don't care how it would make me look. I'd have something to say to him.
I'm glad you brought that up because I want to come back to the brute force Brad Weiss on that because there was some things that Mr. Morosco said was interesting. And now that obviously we're back on our feet here, sounds good. I want to come back to you in a different, because I could talk Mets all day and I'll come back to some of that. But the brute force, I know you. I know the kind of player you were. I know you're a coach now, but walk me through if you were a player again. You just obviously hasn't been that long since you played at SJC. Would you be that guy that would go to him and say, hey, what are you doing here? You're causing us all this disruption. This isn't what we need. We're trying to win a championship. Here we are, the defending world champions. This isn't like a team that's in last place. Would you be that guy, the brute force Brad Weiss, that would be, hey, you know what? Maybe have a conversation with him on the side?
Well, I'll go to as a player in a second, but as a coach, obviously that's my job. That's my role. As a player, I'm a little bit different than some other people. I tend to, again, not be maybe the really bad guy, but I'm going to be the guy who does say something, but in a respectful manner. I still respect you as a person, even though you made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes, and obviously this one is obviously pathetic. And considering the fact that he's already made a mistake, it's even worse, right? But here's the thing. You approach it. You obviously ask the questions, right? You ask the questions, well, why would you do this if you're committed to the team? right? If you're committed to the team, you don't do something like that. Why would you, again, be out at 4:30 when you know you have a game the next day? Why would you be drinking, right, at that hour at the night when you're on the Atlanta Braves on a team that's contending and want to make the playoffs and win games? Why are you doing that when you're batting .214? I don't give a damn about your 20 home runs. That's all he's done. He's batting .214.
Everybody hits 20. Like I said, everybody gets 20 home runs and bats .210 these days. It's no big deal.
Like, you shouldn't be up at that hour. You should be up early in the morning getting some swings in.
Listen, remember during COVID with the Brew Crew? Remember when you were in your slump? You were out there early getting batting practice. I remember.
I was in the batting cages. Of course I was. And that's the type of player that I was, So, again, would I address the issue? Yeah. But, some people, and this is what I don't like, and I understand Rob Morosco where he comes from when it comes to, basically wringing his throat and putting him in front of everybody and making an example of him. Because, listen, all the time, as a coach, I always do that where, if a guy makes a mistake in practice, I'll say, well, what did he do wrong? So we can all learn from it. So there is a part of that as a coach. But as a player, you don't want to make too much of a scene of it, but you want to make sure it's addressed. And I think if you address it the right way, hopefully the person will learn from it and overcome it. And if that person's not willing to learn from it, then they don't need to be on the team. I don't care how good they are. They're not good enough to be a committed player on a team. I don't want them if I'm a player. They could be the best player on the team. I don't care. All right. Ultimately, if you're not going to commit to the team, and if you're going to do things like this when your team is in contention and you're not playing well, right, it just shows arrogance. And arrogance is never a good thing on a team. So ultimately, like I said, as a player, I would address it. But if it's multiple issues in this situation, I think it needs to be taken care of by the coach and he needs to be gone.
Yeah, no question about that. I want to also give a plug to Carlos Chavez because Carlos, of course, has his own podcast, The Mad New Yorker, which you can find on the Northeast Streaming Sports Channel. Our friends over at the Northeast Streaming Sports Channels page on Facebook. So I wanted to actually give Carlos a shout out for that. And he says, humans make mistakes, but some of these guys just have poor habits. No question about it. And he also then goes on and says, Gooden, Strawberry, Vince Coleman. Vince Coleman, was he the guy with the water gun, or am I thinking of... Oh, it was him. Okay,
shooting,
that was
shooting bleach. Yeah,
that was that on Art McFarlane, the old ABC reporter? Would that correct me if I'm wrong? Was that on
I think that too. I think so.
I remember reading that. It was in one of the books I think I read on the Mets. So I was like, that's where I remember Vince Coleman from.
Yeah.
And he says, guys can only do so much, and teams can only do so much, but you need to step up and commit to bury your bad habits and willing to accept help to change for the betterment of one's life. I mean, pretty much well said there, Carlos. But I don't know how much time you have, Ernest, but I did want to ask you very quickly on some Met prospects that we should be watching, because obviously you cover a lot of the minor leagues for us here on Sportswire Radio and heard a number of your interviews, although nothing too much lately. But anything we should be watching Met prospect-wise?
I mean, we went over, even at the beginning of the show, a lot of the main names for the
our audio was terrible. Now I can hear you clearly, so that's why I wanted to re-ask you the question.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, so Francisco Alvarez got called up. He's not exactly thriving. Could be a lot of different things going on. They're probably not even pitching to him. You're going to have a lot of those guys between AAA and majors, veteran-type guys. Who knows what they're throwing at him right now. Vientos just keeps hitting more and more home runs. The thing about Vientos, everyone's worried about defense. Even with Brett Beatty, it's like, well, we're still worried about his defense. But Mark Vientos, J.D. Davis, I mean, maybe you could do the Spider-Man meme if you want. Maybe that's some of the discussions about what's going on there. I know Ronnie Mauricio, by the way, he may end the season with 30 home runs, and he's got nowhere to play. He seems to only be playing shortstop no matter what. Like, he's just planted there in stone. They're not letting him go anywhere else the entire year. That's why I kept thinking, is he getting moved anyway? Is he getting traded in the offseason? Is he get traded at the deadline? Is he get traded in the winter? He's got to go somewhere. I don't know if it's the Mets. We talked about Jose Butto again, who now is on the taxi squad. He may show up on the Mets one way or another now this year at the end of the year. We talked about Bryce Montes de Oca as another one of those out of nowhere 97 to 100 mile an hour guys that some fans would probably be pretty excited to see at the major league level. And oh, by the way, very good friend of mine too, who appeared on a show on the Sports Report and through Sportswire Radio for Jake Mangum, by the way,
I was going to
came back.
say.
He's currently on rehab assignment. So, I mean, maybe by next week, I haven't even reported it yet publicly, but hopefully there's a chance even by next week, if Mangum is back in Syracuse at AAA after his rehab stint is done, knock on wood, pray for ongoing health. There's a guy who's basically, I've been joking, calling him the outfield version of Luis Guillorme. So it sucks now that he's missed this time because this really would have been helpful, obviously. If it was up to me before all the trades, I would have thought Mangum, for all we knew, he might have been replacing Jankowski before the Naquin trade. So you never know come September. It could be pretty interesting. I don't want to just use my bias, but maybe even going into next year, the names like Beatty, Alvarez, Jose Butto, and even Jake Mangum, because again, that Mets 40-man roster looks really weird right now. Lots of arms on it that they're replacing for help. But farm system-wise, with Plummer struggling, Plummer's now off the 40-man. You have Khalil Lee. I, for the life of me, have no idea what's happened this entire season with that talented
2 years
young man.
ago, listen, Khalil Lee 2 years ago was like supposed to be a big-time MLB player by now. Now it's, what is he hitting, like 178 in the minor leagues or 185, whatever it is?
There was even a week that they put him all the way in low A. I don't even attempt intel on that. It's been a very strange season for that talented young man. So at this point, at the outfield position where you have a teenager and Alex Ramirez, you have a couple of international free agents who are 18 and under who might be, really talented. But it looks like Jake Mangum might be up the totem pole very, very, very fast in the outfield. And he has to be 40-man protected anyway in the winter. I would think a guy like that, if you can get a version of a Gold Glove outfielder to kind of hide on your bench next year, there might be teams willing to Rule 5 draft a player like Jake Mangum. So he would be an interesting guy to look for. Because rather than a Plummer or a Lee who kind of had their stints and kind of show up in the last year or two for the Mets, if Mangum did that, he's got some bat-on-ball skills naturally. And you can play him in the outfield wherever, and you're probably going to get a highlight reel that SNY will enjoy playing, relentlessly. It'll be fun. So, I mean, those are some of the main upper minors guys. Unless, again, we love our Trey Cobb. That guy eats innings for breakfast. So if they needed somebody to come up at any moment and have to figure out a 40-man spot, he does throw that filth with a new
Trey Cobb would definitely be somebody I would think that would be a contender. We'll see. I've got a couple of comments. I've got one question for you, Ernest, in a second, but I want to, on a personal note, get to Anthony J. Finkel because I know who he's speaking about. That is Jamie Sanders, and I know Anthony Finkel wants to hear this because Jamie Sanders was supposed to hang out with us, the Brute Force, at Duffy's last night, and he quote-unquote said he couldn't go because his wife wasn't feeling well. Sounds like he didn't want to come out and spend on $20 for a hamburger. So that's why Anthony Finkel is ragging on Jamie Sanders, who, by the way, is not listening to this right now. So that's why he's saying on a personal note, Jamie Sanders is a poser. And by the way, Jamie Sanders is a poser because on a side note, he went to a Rage Against the Machine concert last week at Madison Square Garden and only knew one song, Killing in the Name of. So that is my 2 cents on that, Anthony Finkel. So you can take that for whatever way that you want. But Ernest, for you, Carlos made an interesting point. Mauricio will probably be dealt with a couple of guys for more pitches. Do you see that happening in the offseason?
I mean, playing fake GM, if it was up to me, I've already made my decision. I'm a very stubborn person by nature and genetics.
I know that. Got to know you now a while now. I know that.
So I'm going to stick to, I would think, Beatty, Alvarez, and maybe even the teenager Alex Ramirez, but he's going to take a while. So if it was up to me, even my favorites like Dom Smith, I would have thought he would have already been traded along with JD anyway a while ago. So I would think that come camp 2023, we're probably not going to be seeing Mauricio or Vientos. That would be my little big-time thought, quote, or whatever. I don't know if they're going to be on with the Mets organization next year. And I even had some feelings about that about guys like Jimenez and Rosario before they were traded for Lindor. So I'm thinking at this point, I think Mauricio could be a very, very talented young hit or miss star quality guy that someone will definitely gamble on, and he could become a stud. The power is obviously there. The defense, I don't think he'll ever win a Gold Glove or be considered for one, but I don't think he's necessarily too big or too strong to continue at shortstop or definitely at least middle infield. I just think if you were to package guys like Vientos and Mauricio for some arms, but make them controllable, like maybe the reason why Epler didn't trade them already is maybe everybody wanted to trade their rentals and get them. And maybe the Mets on certain levels, maybe they were like, no. This type of value, we want to get better value from our top 10 prospects. So maybe they're going to try to figure out something. It's not as simple as just saying he's going to be traded because Lindor exists, because that's not really how it works with the Mets in any league. You can see all the time guys are running through 2, 3, the fourth next guy on the list. So I don't think that's it. I just kind of feel there may be some changes of scenery possibly for Vientos and Mauricio. That would be my opinion.
Well, we'll certainly see here, and I'll read off a couple of quick comments here because I actually want to get to Rob Maraska and his contest here before we move on and change into topics. Lindor locking up that position changes that heavy infielders groups Mets had. Absolutely. Lindor certainly turning the corner here the last 2 months, I think has been a godsend to this team. Mets need to make moves this winter, which kind of follows on the Mauricio point. I think the Mets will make moves because I also think the bullpen, I think we all can agree, definitely needs some help there, especially in the middle of the bullpen. Mets already handcuffed Eduardo Fermin and had to let him go. The minors contraction effect was huge. It was something that we spoke about, Ernest, quite a while back on the show here. But Mr. Maraska, I know that you have a contest. I know you have actually something interesting related to Brett Beatty. And for those that are listening and watching here on Sportswire Radio, give us some of these details of this latest contest that you have.
Okay, as we all know, his first major league at bat, he hit a home run. So, of course, Topps made a Topps Now card, which I think it might already be sold out. But I got my hands on a couple of them. They're coming in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give one card away like I did with the Mets no-hitter a couple of months ago. I'm going to give it away, hopefully, to a listener, but someone on Twitter.
Does the Brute Force qualify maybe as somebody who could get this?
If you're on the show, you can't get it. It's got to be to a listener or a Twitter follower. But anyway, if someone follows me, likes me, and retweets it and checks out the show, they could have a chance to win that card. And it's a pretty cool card. And, you never know with these guys. He could be a superstar one day or he could be a bust. Anything could happen. That's
the beauty about these things. It's the beauty about collecting baseball cards or just cards in general is that, some guys pan out and everybody runs and buys the rookie cards and then you never know. So, I mean, certainly Topps and the Topps Now editions, they're very, very beautiful in terms of how they construct and design these cards. So very, very excited about that. So we'll get some details and announce a winner in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I should have the cards probably within 10 to 15 days, and I'll announce a winner. I'm going to post it a bunch of times on Twitter. I'll announce it next week.
You can definitely tag me. I'll definitely try to share it for sure. I'll definitely
that's why I tagged you guys, and I appreciate it.
And tag some of the other show guys as well. Yep.
Yeah, so that's what's going on. Hopefully we get some more listeners too out of the deal. So we'll see what happens, but that's what I got going on with this contest.
No, I definitely appreciate that. I know that some of the other guys will be curious because next week we'll be joined once again by Justin Gianelli and Chris Pizzea, obviously this summer, and some of the guys are on vacation, so we look forward to having them back here as well. And certainly we're here on Sportswire Radio for a little while longer here with some of the gang, the original Sports Report team. The first time I think we're all together actually on a show, ironically. The first half of the show, I recommend don't listen to it because the audio is terrible. but the second half has been much better, much improved, and certainly thank God for that. That is with Rob Maraska, the Brute Force Brad Weiss, and Ernest Dove. And I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryson. For you, the Brute Force, because Anthony Finkel had asked this to you, and unfortunately, I can't read back in the comments. He had mentioned maybe going to a New York Liberty game here soon. You might want to tell us why that might occur.
Absolutely. So the Liberty, of course, and we've had fun talking about the New York Liberty here on the show. Obviously, after last week, we spoke about how they made the playoffs and they were going to play Chicago, but we did not talk about them potentially winning Game 1 in Chicago. I think everyone was shocked when they were able to go into Chicago against the defending champions and win Game 1 of a 3-game series. We knew we were going to have to win a game to get back to Barclays Center, but ultimately, they're supposed to play their Game 3 decisive game on Tuesday, but Game 2's tomorrow. Everybody's talking, kind of past it, like, they'll probably lose to Chicago the second game and then play the third game, but they could win and potentially end the series right there. But if the Liberty do lose to Chicago, Game 3 is on Tuesday, and of course, I'm trying to go. I already got some tickets in my hand, so I'm ready to support these New York Liberty. They've been one of the best teams in New York recently, whether it's through the Mets or the Liberty. I do not put the Yankees in there because they have not been good.
Oh, my God, the Yankees. I can't believe I'm talking about the Yankees the way I'm talking about the context of the Mets usually over the show's history. So it's a really big deal here.
It's a crazy time, but, the New York Liberty are a team that's young, that really is scary, and they're going to be really good going forward. And the fact that they are winning a playoff game against a team that won last year that's very experienced is extremely impressive. So I'm not hoping for them to lose tomorrow so I can go on Tuesday, but in a way, I kind of do because it's going to be an exciting game, and hopefully you guys can come and we can get some.
Well, I'm hoping they can win because unfortunately, I don't know if I can make Tuesday's game. So I'm kind of hoping the Liberty actually win.
I mean, listen, I'm hoping too because that would make them advance the next round.
Which would be great because then I can definitely go to a game after that.
Yeah, so we'll root for them tomorrow. They're playing the 12 o'clock noon game tomorrow in Chicago, which is 11 a.m. in Chicago, which I don't understand. But why are they
playing a 12 o'clock game on Saturday? Is there like a Justin Bieber concert going on in Chicago? Is there like some type of concert as to why the arena is booked? That's my only thing I can think of.
I personally cannot give you a good answer to that question. So
Wayne Richardson probably could. That's who probably would know.
He could potentially. So he gives me a lot of other answers, including tickets too. So I always want to thank Wayne, of course.
Absolutely.
Long Island Nets. He's a great guy and has hooked us up with these tickets. So thank you, Wade. Shout out as always, and always doing a great job. Always doing a great job, not only with the Nets, but for the community. He's a great guy.
Oh, no question. And Wade, of course, SJC, New York Golden Eagle alum also. And I'm getting a whole bunch of comments on the Liberty, actually. So I'm glad I brought up. And also, speaking of SJC alums, I want to give a huge congratulations to our old friend Billy Heenan because child number 2, by the way, I saw there, the Brute Force. And congratulations to Billy. And certainly we wish Billy very, very well. Great guy, obviously, was an assistant coach on this past year's team and will always be a part of the SJC New York men's basketball family and the program's family because child number 2 is now here in the Heenan household. So we want to congratulate him on the birth of his beautiful child. And certainly it is a tremendous honor to have known Billy and is a great friend. And Anthony Finkel here chimes and says, the Liberty have the Sky's number this season. We are good luck because for those that are watching and listening, we went to the game late in the regular season where the Liberty defeated the Chicago Sky in a wild game, but the Liberty controlled here for most of the game, and we came back after the Sky had taken the lead and won a really wild game, and that's kind of what turned the Liberty season around. Carlos says, go Liberty, and yeah, terrible time for a playoff game. Who plays a 12 o'clock Saturday playoff game? That's just what I want to know. Who plays a game 12 o'clock, deciding game? You're the defending champions. You're telling me they couldn't play it at 5 o'clock even, 4 o'clock? Even if a concert's 7 o'clock, you still have 3-4 hours to turn the building over? I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Joey Bostrom says, let's go Liberty. Absolutely. And he also, Carlos says, congratulations with child number 2 here. Absolutely. Now, I'm looking forward to the Liberty. Now, the Liberty have been a nice story. They've played really, really well here. They're a fun team. They play hard. Sabrina Ionescu, I mean, just unbelievable player, unbelievable story. You might make the case that she might be the best basketball player in New York. You could make that case.
Oh, my God. I mean, I can, especially if Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are gone. But She really is. I mean, she's a stud. And I would even say, individually, she's probably one of the best athletes and players in New York right now.
Oh, no question. I mean, I think in New York, she's almost for sure the most unsung player in New York. And Carlos, by the way, I think he read my mind, and I think I did hear Carlos say that because he said I said that here a few weeks ago. LOL. Yes, I think you did say that. Yes, you did say
I
that.
agree with Carlos. You did.
Absolutely. No, and watching her in person, I mean, definitely, I don't think TV does her justice in terms of the kind of player that she is because she plays a lot better than her production is. She's a baller, no question about it. And also a great leader on the court. So certainly I'm looking forward to that. We'll see what happens. We'll see here if the Liberty advance tomorrow or that will be a deciding game. No question, though, regardless, whenever the Liberty come back to the Barclays Center, it will be a hotter ticket and a better ticket than whenever the Nets resume the season, which, by the way,
I'll say one last thing, Tom Bryce. I will say, going to the 2 games this year, the attendance is going up. So the interest level is definitely getting there, and it's a good thing for not only the WNBA that's looking to expand, but the Liberty themselves because, they are a good team. And I know they play in the summer, but I think people are starting to appreciate the women's game more, and it needs to be done.
Absolutely, no question about it. And obviously, listen, your first playoff win in 7 years, and you see a fan base that's starving for some playoff success, starving for some basketball, and they've got a great player. Obviously, that helps with a lot of star power and some other players there. So I could certainly see why attendance is going up. Also, want to shout out John Jay women's basketball coach Linda Day because she's a huge Liberty fan. I know you know Coach Day very well, the Brute Force, and she's a huge Liberty fan here. And Anthony Finkel says here, Liberty Bibberty. What's up with the Liberty Bibberty reference here? I mean, was there something I'm missing here?
The Liberty Insurance.
Yeah.
Right, but is it Liberty? Is it Liberty Bibberty? Is it Liberty Bib? Is it really Liberty Bibberty? Go ahead, Rob.
The young actor in the commercial says Liberty Bibberty when he can't get his line straight.
Oh, okay. And I see Liberty. Yeah, that's what I know of because Anthony Finkel does say that all the time, and his girlfriend actually hears that all the time, and she's, she does kind of looks at it like, huh? But no, I didn't get the Liberty Bibberty. Now that totally makes sense. But no, definitely looking forward to Liberty basketball here. But we'll come back to some of that here, and I want to get to Ernest Dove here, because I know Ernest, you're a busy guy. You probably got stuff to get to, so I wanted to get closing thoughts from you. Anything you're watching Mets related and anything else on your mind. And obviously, I always love having you here with us on Sportswire Radio. And anything else that you want to say and share. And hopefully we get you back on here more often. I feel like where's the time gone?
Yeah, I know. It's pretty exciting. I'm just thankful to have this shot and have this chance to be back on the show. I love being part of Sportswire Radio. I've been still doing my thing on the grind. I even had that interview a few weeks back with David Griffin. So, yep. And I know he's been pitching really well in the last couple of outings in the minor leagues.
Yep.
He's fighting his way like a lot of the minor leaguers are. So obviously forever never-ending shout out to all the minor leaguers. I might be making another return of sorts as well to some print articles of sorts. So if you want to keep an eye out on a print interview that might be coming up with a coach or / manager in the Mets organization in the minor leagues, I'm going to have an interview that's going to be kind of being done. I guess I'll do my little version of a tease on that one. So yeah, keep an eye out for my interview to come with a manager in the minor leagues. And again, just continue to follow me on Twitter, and obviously just continue to follow the Sports Report. I mean, all the shows have been awesome, ongoing.
I appreciate, by the way, the sharing the wrestling shows. You even put some funny comments. I think there was one I did with the backyard wrestlers. You know how many people message me about those wrestling segments? You have no idea at this point.
They're the one where they got the masks on. I got I love every piece of the wrestling interviews, man. But even just the wonderful accents. I wish I was in like Europe or something. I want to have the accent. I want to have the mask. Like those interviews are absolutely fantastic. You're like built for it. So if you want to go on to Sportswire Radio on Sportnarium, just literally look out for those interviews because they're even as fantastic as anything else, whether it's audio or visual. Those things are fantastic.
And I got one more question before I let you go. Carlos has got one more question here before we let you sign off, and I hope you'd be able to answer this here. And he says, Ernest, last question. What's feeling on international players not getting contracts? You can message me. But if you want to answer it here before I let you go, the floor is yours before we move on.
Well, at the international free agent stuff and the weird stuff between the draft and what they're doing, and I know there's the concerns anyway that these kids anyway are being – it's like being recruited for some kind of private high school, though. These kids are getting recruited by age 12, 13 anyway. So I have no idea. Here's the thing, though. The Mets may even have one of those, like, quote-unquote, let's go ahead and wink on one of the top international free agents to come. But there's questions about if they're going to take away the whole process and make a draft out of it anyway. So I'm fascinated to see by it. They keep trying to make it sound like the money works better with a draft, but for some reason, associations and the players' associations might be fighting it. So I don't even want to get into that talk. It sounds too confusing to me. So hopefully, if I'm trying to answer the question right, if it was between a draft and the way they do things now, I mean, I don't know how much you can manipulate the draft as it is, but I've never been really comfortable with the courting of like 12, 13-year-olds. And by the time they're 16, it was kind of already in stone anyway. So it seems like a very scary process. I know the Mets organization have an amazing facility in the Dominican Republic. So there's really good things going on with developing things like that. But it just sounds scary when there's a form of recruitment on some level. And I believe the Braves, one of the organizations that got caught with it a couple of years ago, a lot of it sounds scary to me. I don't know if just creating a draft solves all the problems. I don't want to just say, yeah, make it a draft if maybe the players and the kids like it the way it is, but maybe the draft would be the best option. Although, again, the Mets apparently are linked to one of the top, if not the top one, in one of the really future international free agent signing periods. So maybe as a Mets fan, I'm supposed to say, no, leave it the way it is, at least until they get their number one guy, and then maybe worry about it when it's done. I think maybe the draft in the long run might be the better way to go to at least structure and organize it, even though, again, you're going to manipulate it anyway the way teams manipulate with the signing bonuses and how they draft guys. We've seen it for years. You get a guy drafted in the 4th round, he gets a $1,000 signing bonus. It was the whole point of all that. And even you and I, Thomas, we've talked to certain players that they know. They know when they specifically – they're like, I'm excited. I love the idea I got drafted so high. It does seem – I kind of know why. It's kind of a tough process anyway, so maybe it's time to figure out a better structure, though.
Right, and we've had guys on that were in the 4th round, the 6th round, the 7th round, and certainly after like the 6th and 7th rounds, it becomes a different situation. There's bonus money in there, and there's so many other things that play into factor with that. So great question, and Carlos says good stuff, and obviously, I hope that you come back on, Ernest, sooner here in the future, and we can talk and shoot the breeze and maybe do an interview one of these days and talk with another player. But you do great work for us, and I'm looking forward to that print version. Also, Ernest Dove on Twitter, Ernest.dove on Instagram. Also, YouTube page as well, and also Facebook as well. Make sure you give Ernest a friend request. And my friend, I can't thank you enough. I know you got a lot on your plate, so I wanted to let you go and enjoy whatever left of the evening, and keep up the good work. I always try to make sure I can share some of your stuff from time to time on Twitter, and thank you for all that you've done for us here over the years, and hopefully you join us a lot sooner than the last appearance.
I know. Thank you, man. No, hey, listen, don't call it a comeback. LL Cool J, baby. I'll try to keep making I'll try to make some more awesome appearances because I'm just thankful to be part of the entire show and the crew and everybody on Sportswire.
Absolutely. The first time that we're all actually here as a Sports Report team after all these years. Who would have guessed it? It certainly was an interesting show. Like I said, the first half of the show, the audio was terrible. Like I said, just don't listen to the first half. Listen after the second hour on. Then things get much, much better. But Ernest, my friend, thank you as always. I'll definitely share some clips for sure on Twitter. We got still some good red meat there, and we'll definitely speak with you soon. And thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
Take care.
Yeah.
And that was Ernest Dove here. Obviously, Ernest, a very, very busy man. We didn't want to keep Ernest here, and we have a few more minutes here with some of the guys, and that is Rob Maraska and the Brute Force, Brad Weiss. And Brute Force, before I move on and get Rob Maraska's thought or two on the Mets, I did want to ask, because there was something that came to mind that was football that I really wanted to ask you. And you know what I'm going to talk about with you, and that is the news about Zach Wilson. And I guess you could say it's a sigh of relief for Jet fans like us, but I don't know. I'm still kind of skeptical here, but give me your thoughts here on the news about Zach Wilson. It looks like he's going to be okay, but I'm still in my mind going, here we go again.
Yeah, there's definitely that feeling of here we go again. But ultimately, the Jets dodged a bullet. I mean, with Wilson, when you have a knee injury, you're almost thinking torn ACL, torn MCL, and out for the season. Luckily, the Jets only have Wilson out for 2 to 4 weeks. Likely the 4 weeks he'll be out. They'll probably
miss him week 1. Yep.
First week 1, which of course will be Joe Flacco against the Ravens. So maybe
I heard somebody on the Fan yesterday mornings originally say they had the class of the NFL Pro Football Hall of Fame, almost like baseball's Golden Age committee. And at first he got caught. I think it was Chris Lepresti. He wound up saying Joe Flacco Hall of Fame, but it was really Joe Klecko. And I think it was it Jerry Recco that goes Joe Flacco Hall of Fame. So Joe Flacco for me starting week 1. Still not.
I mean, that doesn't knock socks off or excite you, but based on what we've heard from Jets camp, he's doing well. And listen, if he could give us one decent week and give us a chance against Baltimore, it's a game in which me and Tom both agreed we were going to lose most likely when we did our predictions weeks and weeks ago. But listen, the key is going to be how is Zach Wilson going to come back from this injury, and how is he going to perform. And ultimately, I got to be worried about that just because he's going to be out for a significant period of time, about a month. But, at the same time, our best chance of winning is clearly with Zach Wilson. It's not with Joe Flacco. It's not
really, because I'm getting some comments. I definitely pressed some buttons here because I think people are like,
listen, I've heard this chatter. I still disagree. I think Zach Wilson.
All right, because I got some comments. I got a whole bunch of comments.
I'll respond. Don't you worry.
All right.
But Zach Wilson's still the guy. He's going to come back. He's going to get the starting role back as soon as he's ready. I wouldn't rush him, though. If he needs an extra week, I'd say that could be okay because I believe, the Jets play they play the AFC North the next first 4 weeks.
Yep.
So, the second week, I believe, against the Browns. And, of course, Deshaun Watson just keeps getting more games suspended, which is what he should. He should be suspended more, in my opinion. But 11 games, I guess, will do for now. But listen, Zach Wilson will come back, will be the starting quarterback for the Jets. And ultimately, he's our best chance at winning and being that 8 or 9 win team that me, Chris Pizzea, and others have talked about. So it is concerning, but at the same time, like I said to begin this, they did dodge a bullet. He could have been out for the season, and it really could have been a different conversation. But I think the Jets will hold it down in week 1. They probably still won't win, but Joe Flacco will keep us in the game. And then week 2, hopefully, we'll be back and we'll be ready to go and hopefully, stay on track of what we wanted, which was 8 or 9 wins.
Well, I'll tell you what, as crazy as it sounds, we are just 3 weeks away from Sunday from the start of the Jets season. It's
the fantasy football draft is coming up too for me, so it's
I knew that was coming. Yeah, because Anthony Finkel and I were speaking about that yesterday, and let me get to a bunch of comments on football. So we'll certainly. Carlos agrees that I said that Wilson is a project. Yeah, he's looking like a project right now, and Jets need to stop drafting quarterbacks. I did ask Anthony Finkel this, and I said to him, yesterday, why is it that the Jets, for whatever reason, can never get it right with quarterbacks? I mean, the Giants at least have had runs. They had Phil Simms. Kerry Collins was okay for a little while. Obviously, Eli Manning. But the Jets, it's like, we can't get it right. And Anthony Finkel says, bench Zach, let Flacco run the show for a little bit. Let's see.
Anthony Finkel, you got to clear up what a little bit means. Does that mean like a couple of weeks? Like, you got to clear that up.
Carlos says I give him 8 weeks.
8 weeks, Joe Flacco? Oh, that's a lot.
If Flacco wins week 1, do they stick with the hot hand?
Like I said, I mean, you got to see how healthy Zach Wilson is at the time. I mean, if he's not fully ready to go, I'd say start Flacco week 2. Especially if they win, I would say yes, start Flacco. But if you're talking about long-term, 8 games, hell
Well,
no.
I guess there is the adage he's playing his old team.
Right, so there's going to be motivation there in a way. I mean, but at the same time, again, I still don't expect the Jets to win the game. I didn't expect them to win the game with Zach Wilson healthy and everything going right. So, again, if they could do win, I would give Joe Flacco week 2. But after that, I mean, come on. It's Zach Wilson's show. He's got to be the quarterback.
Zach is an overrated pick. Yeah, I do remember Carlos saying that in the past on prior Sportswire radio Friday night shows. I do remember Carlos saying that. He says, this guy needs to go back to BYU and play 3 more seasons. Take advantage of that COVID-19 extra. Because we know college players still get a waiver. So Carlos feels like he should use that waiver and get some reps and play some college football. And Anthony Finkel says, don't disrespect the Sanchez. I mean, Sanchez had 2 years? I mean, the Jets, the point was that the Jets, for whatever reason, cannot get a long-term quarterback to have. I mean, Pennington was okay. We had I think 4 years maybe he was good, but couldn't stay healthy consistently. Testaverde had a couple of good years. The point is we haven't had that franchise quarterback. I know Anthony Finkel's going to tell me most playoff wins, winningest Jets QB, GQ model. I mean, listen, off the field, the guy got evil Longoria, which is great. I'm not going to disrespect that. But 4 playoff wins. Just want to remind you, Anthony Finkel, he only won 4 playoff games, the Jets quarterback. It wasn't like he won 14. He won 4, and I would argue 3 of those 4 wins were because of the Jets' defense. So I would say those 4 wins, I mean, yes, I agree that he were good those 2 years, but his overall run, the point is the Jets have not had a franchise quarterback. I mean, going back in my lifetime, like I said, we had Vinny Testaverde, meh. We had Chad Pennington, was okay. I mean, Brett Favre, don't even get us started on that. I mean, we had Fitzpatrick for 1 good year. That was kind of an aberration. We've had all these different quarterbacks that have come in, and they just, Zach Wilson, is he the next one? I mean, it's still too early to tell. And Anthony Finkel also wants to remind me that he beat Peyton and Brady on the road. Yes, he did beat Peyton. Well, yes. Did he beat Peyton Manning? Yes, he did. And Tom Brady, but couldn't get past Big Ben. Yes, he couldn't get past the Steelers in the 2000, was it the 10? I think it was 2010, right? 2009, we lost, I think. Are you sure, Anthony Finkel? I think we actually lost to Peyton Manning in the championship game. And then we lost in 2010 to Pittsburgh. I'm pretty sure you might have that mixed up, but you can come back and let me know. And Carlos Chavez says, didn't Ray Lucas play longer than Chad and Mark? No, Ray Lucas might have played longer in the NFL, but I don't think Ray Lucas had a longer run as a Jets starting quarterback. Ray Lucas basically filled in for 1 season for Vinny Testaverde. Chad Pennington was the starting quarterback for at least 4 years. I mean, he had a run. I would say Pennington and Sanchez were probably comparable in total starts. But the point is, listen, if I'm comparing Ray Lucas, Chad Pennington, and Mark Sanchez, you know what that tells you, the Brute Force? We haven't had a real good run of quarterbacks. Whereas the Giants, like I said, Eli Manning, whatever you want to say about him, he had 2 Super Bowl wins, and he was their quarterback for over a decade. Kerry Collins was even good for a few years. You had him. Obviously, Phil Simms. They've had a run of quarterbacks, even despite Daniel Jones and his lack of success. So the point is that if we're comparing Ray Lucas, Chad Pennington, and Mark Sanchez, that tells you that the Jets, we have not had good quarterback success. So the Brute Force could talk to me all day about confidence with the Mets and having confidence, but right now, you ain't going to sell anybody on confidence because even the Brute Force knows that there can't be too much confidence with this Jets team. Because again, we talked about, we'll get more into this in a couple of weeks because obviously we're still digesting baseball and we'll get into all of that here. But I'll come back to baseball before we get to closing thoughts and move on here. So Rob Maraska, obviously, Mets have a tough stretch here. We got some games coming up here against the Phillies, a doubleheader. We've got the Yankees, and I know we're still feeling good about this Mets team. I don't think it's dire straits like the Yankees are right now. But, I mean, give me 1 or 2 keys for this Mets team right now between now and next Friday.
Well, they hit a little bump in the road against the Braves, some injuries, and, that was bound to happen. They won tonight against the Phillies.
I think a much-needed win, which the Brute Force had pointed out when we were having technical issues. But I think now that we're okay, I think that was really the Brute Force. That was one of your best points the whole night, was that this was a must-win tonight, for my opinion at least.
Yeah, definitely. Beatty had a nice hit, a couple of RBIs. So, that was good. They had a good night tonight. Um, you know, they got to win the series against the Phillies, and then they got to go. They have to play the Yankees Monday and Tuesday, and we know who's pitching for the Mets. Okay,
Yep.
so it's a great setup.
Well, we got him at the right time. Hopefully, the Yankees bats don't wake up against us.
We got Scherzer going, and we got DeGrom going against the Yankees. So, easily it could be a season series sweep by the Mets.
Which
Okay.
again, have we done that before against the Yankees? I don't think we've swept. Maybe one year, I think we might have been like 4-0 against the Yankees. I think, but other than that, like we've never had that kind of running. And we got a bunch of comments in here. I said it here from New York City. Teams Vegas have Giants, Jets. That Jets 6, I guess 6 is the over-under. And I'm thinking that's about right. I already planned out most of my Sundays to be sure I'm not around for the beatdowns. Yeah, I guess people on the radio, and I know Anthony Finkel's going on about Duffy's, and we'll definitely, I'm sure, have another Duffy's meeting. But I mean, 6 over-under. Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of pretty fair. I think most people seem to be down on the Giants right now. I think the over under I heard right now is Tyrod Taylor coming in week 3. Has anybody heard that? I'm pretty sure I heard that on the radio. And that's how I guess Las Vegas has no confidence in Daniel Jones. Giants, I think 6. I think if they get 6, that would be a good year. Jets, I still think the schedule's favorable enough they can get to 7. I mean, Chris Bizet was like we could get to 9 maybe. I think Chris said, 9, Brad? I don't know. I think 9 might be kind of high with this team. And Carlos says Taylor comes in week 1. Well, I mean, if the Giants are down big, I'm sure that Giant fans are going to go with that button. But, I don't know. I mean, I think the Giants are going to have we'll talk more about this. I'm sure we'll get Billy McInerney and Justin. I'm sure they'll talk about this in couple of weeks as we get ready for the season, which is less than 20. The NFL season is less than 20 days from now, so that tells you that season's coming here quicker than a New York minute. But we'll see here. And Carlos also says here, Daniel Jones will trip on his shoelaces and break his labrum. I hope he doesn't trip on his shoelaces. I mean, I hope that that doesn't happen. I mean, I hope he plays well, or if he doesn't play well, at least it's because of his own play here. But we'll, I guess, figure all that out here. But NFL season is coming, and Mets also very quickly have 4 games with the Rockies after the Yankee series, and then we have a series coming up with the Dodgers of 3. I think that's the last series, correct me if I'm other than the Braves, I look at this Mets schedule, and I think that's the last series where I say with the Mets, all right, now I'm like a little worried, but then after that, we got the Pirates, we got the Nationals, we got the Reds. Those are teams, the Marlins, that we should really pounce on here. And then I think Carlos had an exclamation point. All right, so all great stuff here. Any other thing else you want to add, the Brute Force, when it comes to the Mets? And also Carlos says he will be there at Citi Field for the Dodgers and Rockies. And, of course, Old Timers Day here, which we spoke about last week on the show, is coming up next weekend against the Rockies. So, I think Carlos, I'm sure, will be there. Justin Gianelli and the Brute Force. Have you decided if you're going to be there next Saturday?
I still have to confirm it because it's not my ticket, but I was offered a ticket. So I just got to make sure that I get that deal. But, yeah, I mean, to talk more about the Mets, clearly now with no echo, all right, I can clearly talk about the Mets, okay? I'm still very confident in this team, all right? After this week, I know everybody's, you said they were going to win 3 out of 4 in Atlanta, and they lost 3 out of 4. Well, here's the thing, though. As Rob Orozco was saying, a lot of things happened. You had 2 nights in a row, the first 2 games, where your pitchers went out after basically the second inning. That is very rare, not happening. You had rain delays. You had Darren Ruff pitching 2 innings. I mean, you had a lot of different things that happened in those games. So I'm not saying that really scares me when it comes to the Braves. You come back and you win the Scherzer start, which was good. And then the DeGrom game was a good one between him and Fried, and you lost by a run. So I'm not necessarily worried. This series did not scare me at all. It did not make me go near the panic button at all. All right. Ultimately, the Mets came back tonight, and they did exactly what they've done all year. Come back, right, and get a key win, right? And hopefully this leads to a series win. Tomorrow will be an interesting doubleheader when it comes to Zach Wheeler is going to pitch one of the games against Trevor Williams, and then David Peterson is going to pitch against Falter tomorrow. So I would say you hope you win the Peterson start and maybe the Wheeler start. We'll see how they hit against him. But ultimately, if you get 1 out of 2 and then you possibly win on Sunday, and then you feel good about yourself. But right now, Sunday, we don't even know who's pitching. So that is a bigger issue. If there's any issue I'm worried about, it's about the health of Walker and Carrasco. Hopefully it's not too bad. I know Carrasco's going to be out in a couple weeks, but hopefully he can come back strong. Hopefully Taijuan Walker is not badly hurt with his back spasms. That's all I'm worried about. But besides that, the team itself, you see Pete Alonso with a home run today. You see Brett Beatty contributing. I mean, there's still a lot of good things with this Mets team, so I'm not overly concerned, and I'm happy to see. And we'll see how they do against the Yankees. Like you said, it's a good time to be facing the Yankees, but at the same time, we don't want to be the team that motivates them and turns their season around. So
Absolutely.
So for the Mets, again, I'm not overly concerned. The confidence meter is still high. Don't you dare come at me and say it's not. It is. And the panic button has certainly been pressed for the Yankees, for me and for many Yankee fans.
Oh, absolutely. No question. The Yankees, I fully agree with you on that. And Carlos also wants to remind us that Pittsburgh will be Roberto Clemente Day. Well deserved. The Roberto Clemente. I think I have a Roberto Clemente baseball card somewhere, which is definitely one of my more memorable cards. And the rain delay was the turning point. And he also says homers, RBIs, and doubles, steals. Oh, my. Pete Alonso now 30 home runs, 102 runs batted. You think about Mets history, it's really Pete Alonso is the only guy that's in this rarefied. He's got 102 RBIs, and we got 6 weeks left in the season. He's going to definitely have the franchise record, not only for home runs in a single season, but runs batted in, because runs batted in, he's going to wind up having, probably at his pace to be safe, 135 RBI, 100, at least 130 runs, and we've never had that in Met history. I mean, think about all the guys we've had: Piazza, Strawberry, Harold Johnson, and Howard Johnson, and Robin Ventura, and all these great players. We haven't any of that. Listen, Francisco Lindor's got 21 and 83, and also wanted to point out very quickly before we get to closing thoughts, Albert Pujols now 690 career home runs with his 11th home run yesterday. He's had a pretty big second half since that home run derby. He's turned the corner. He's got 11 home runs and 193 at bats, and I wanted to give him a nice mention. I don't think he's going to hit 700 home runs, but he's going to make it close. We spoke about this earlier in the year. Would he get there? And I was kind of like, well, maybe. And he's definitely made it interesting. I don't think he'll get there because you still need 10 more home runs. And also, Carlos says Kingman was on that RBI list. I don't think he was on the single season RBI list in terms of like 120, but he definitely knocked in over 100 runs as a Met. So there's no question that Kingman's up there. King Kong, Dave Kingman. But Albert Pujols is definitely hitting like King Kong right now, and some 11 home runs this year and 193 at bats, up to 254. So he's had a nice run. So always like to see somebody like that play well. And Cardinals again are in first place. Always seems like the Cardinals are in first place though. So those are some great things here on Sportswire Radio. So we had an eventful show. I was almost like it took us a long time to get on. We had technical difficulties the first 45 or 50 minutes, but the show must go on, and thankfully we shouldered on, and I was able to kind of adjust everything, and I thank everybody for the patience, everybody that kept and stayed with us. So that means a lot, and obviously also means a lot for everybody to tune in. But Mr. Maraska, I want to give you the floor, give you some closing thoughts, anything you want to plug, share, say for us, and I can't thank you enough, and fire away, my friend.
Yeah, it was a good show tonight to have, the original gang on.
Yeah, we know Billy McInerney was the only one. Speaking of posers, where was Billy McInerney? I mean, this, everybody was saying, well, the old lineup, and Bill would have had Billy. We would have been good to go.
But it was fun. It was a great second half show after the echo chamber was done.
Oh my God, it was just couldn't figure it out. I just couldn't figure it. And I'm good with technology, and I just don't know what happened.
But you fixed it, and everything sounds great now. And looking forward to the rest of this weekend series against the Phillies, and definitely looking forward to Monday and Tuesday against the Yankees. I mean, I can't wait for those games. Those are going to be really good. So, if anyone wants to reach me on Twitter, it's rmaraska, and I'll have more about the contest on Twitter and on next week's show. And you could get me on Facebook at Rob Maraska.
Absolutely. And the root force, I mean, Tuesday could be a really, really hot sports night in New York. You've got obviously Mets, Yankees, you've got Liberty, and US Open is not too far behind as well. So You got the tennis, you got baseball, you got basketball. I mean, August is kind of a dead month, but not so fast there, it seems. Like we got a lot going on here. So we're turning the corner for sure. And Mr. Maraska, all great stuff. And thank you for all you do for us. And certainly we didn't save the best for last, but we definitely saved the biggest for last. And I have a feeling we're going to have some interesting closing thoughts here from the Brew Force. We'll have a happy belated birthday wish. I have a happy belated birthday wish I want to share to a supporter of ours also on Sportzwire that I promised. And certainly without further ado, the Brew Force Brad Weiss, you know the drill, and floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, Tom, thank you for another great week of the show, even though we were only clear for about half of it, but it's okay. Technical difficulties definitely happen, especially for me. We all know that. So I want to thank everybody. Thank you, Rob, for coming on. Ernest Dub, obviously, thank you as well. It's been a while, so it's good to see Ernest on the show once again. Of course, you can find me on Instagram at bweiss20, searching Twitter at bradweiss20, and searching on Facebook to search my name, Bradley Weiss. And I might be adding to the social media platforms. I've heard of a couple, so I might be adding my social media platforms. So stay tuned for that as well if I do so. A couple things. Number one, I guess I definitely should talk about this. My dad's 60th birthday was this Wednesday, so I want to give him a happy birthday here on the Sports Report to the Super Force. Definitely.
He doesn't even look 60. Sitting with him, the guy is like in phenomenal shape. Are you sure he's 60?
He's 60 years old. So
he's 60. He's 1 year older than me because Sunday I'm going to be 59. So
well, you were next on the birthday list.
Happy early birthday to you, Rob Maraska. Of course, we'll have that next week, of course.
I usually don't announce it, but thank you.
So he turned 60. Like you said, he looks nowhere close to it, but he certainly doesn't act like it. You know, he acts like he's still a young guy. So I want to, congratulate and say another happy birthday to my dad, Joel Weiss, the Super Force. So give him a shout out here on the show. With that going forward, I also, in clear mode, I want to give a shout out to Jason Getz and James DeSimone because they did come through tonight with a NCPAL High School Summer League Championship. Tonight they won 70-53 over Floral Park. With Gaddis Court Clark High School winning. So congratulations to them. They certainly walked out with a great trophy. They took a couple nice pictures.
Yes,
So they're
I happen to see some of them, actually. I won't say how, but I apparently have.
You've seen them before me, so Tom Bryce. So I want to give them a shout out. Of course, they mean a lot to me. They're two great guys. They've done a great job at NCPAL Hicksville Camp, basketball camp the last couple weeks. So give them a shout out. They also support the show as well. So thank you, James and Jason, and I congratulate you guys. You guys are champions right now. And I'm sure they're celebrating very nice right now as we speak. So congratulations to them. But speaking of other champions that I'm hoping to see, we talked about them before. I want to give them one more shout out. That's the New York Liberty. I'm looking forward to seeing this game tomorrow against Chicago. Hopefully they can get the job done in Chicago. But if not, I'm certainly going to try to get my way to Barclays on Tuesday. As Tom mentioned, Tuesday is going to be a big day with the Yankees against the Mets, with DeGrom pitching, of course. Scherzer pitching Monday. The U.S. Open as well. We got to give a shout out to Serena Williams. She's decided to retire. So, one of the best women's players. You talk about Sabrina Ionescu. I mean, she's hopefully going to get.
I think women's athletes, or even frankly, athletes in general. I mean, think about it.
Serena Williams is one of the greatest to play any sport, but specifically tennis. I mean, men's and women's. So she's one of the best to do it. So to see her go is definitely a sad moment for the sport of tennis and sports in general. So I want to give a shout out there as well. And then the final thing, just to recap everything we've talked about tonight, the Mets here, I think they get the job done in Philly. I totally couldn't disagree more with Ernest Dove when it came to the Phillies. When Bryce Harper returns, it will be for the worst. The Phillies will falter. They will go downwards when Harper comes back. This is their peak, and they desperately need to win a series against the Mets because they haven't done it all year. So the Phillies are more desperate, but the Mets are desperate as well, and I think they'll get the job done this weekend. Yankees series will be interesting for sure. And then after that, we're going to have some fun, I think. I think the Dodgers series will be fun, and then all the opponents you mentioned, I think this team can really make a big push and get some real big confidence going into the playoffs. So I'm looking forward to all of that, of course, and much more, of course. Shout out to Level Up as well. Level Up _LI. We're doing great work. We have our tryouts coming up. Basketball season's coming. The Knicks schedule just came out as well, and I'll be going to a game in November with James.
Anthony Finkel and I were talking about that. I said, what do you think about going to a basketball game?
Yeah,
an NBA game.
I'm already scheduling a November 2nd with James Cronin. James Cronin is a big Trae Young fan, and it's Knicks Hawks, so we're definitely going to be trying to go to that. And then, of course, there's fantasy football. I can't wait for that as well. Football is always one of the most exciting parts of the year, especially on this show. We get the upset alerts going.
Yeah, I like doing the football. I think football, people like the football. People like to get into that. I think football will be good for us.
A lot of fun on this show, and it's a great time of year. So looking forward to that as well. So with all that being said, it's been a great night. Thank you, Tom Bryce. Thank you, Rob, for another great week of Friday Night Live, and certainly can't wait for another great week next week for sure.
Absolutely, no question about all of those things. And Anthony Finkel says, "Are you about to start TikTok dancing?" So that
maybe we'll see. We'll see.
Don't tip your hand. Don't say anything that you may not want to incriminate yourself on. But I do want to give a happy birthday to you, Mr. Maraska. Obviously, hope you have a great day. Hope you do something well. Hope the Mets give you a win. Hope you certainly get that. I know that would be a great birthday present. Obviously, the Brett Beatty card will be, I'm sure, something we'll look forward to. Also, happy birthday to the Superforce. And again, great pleasure to speak. I'm still baffled. He's 60. This guy's like in phenomenal shape. And you look at him and you would think he's more like 40 rather than 60. I mean, so he's in phenomenal shape. And happy birthday to him. Also want to give a happy belated birthday to my very good friend, Steve Saperstein, of course, who Steve right now is not listening because he's in bed and, he's got kids and responsibilities. But Steve, obviously, always been one of our biggest supporters, one of my closest friends, obviously, for a very, very long time. Obviously, former co-founder of the Shorefront Coalition, also candidate for the city council. So I want to make sure I wish Steve a very, very happy birthday. Thank him for all of his support throughout the years. Also, Joey Bostrom also wants to wish you a happy birthday, Mr. Bostrom. Of course, South Beach's own Joey Bostrom, the pride of South Beach in there. So I want to make sure Joey Bostrom gets a big shout out because Anthony Finkel was asking about Joey Bostrom. He said, "Where's Joey Bostrom live?" And I said, South Beach. And Anthony Finkel's got a funny line here. He says, Steve's got more than kids this week because I guess I'll say it because I won't clip this. Steve has COVID. That's why, because Steve Saperstein has COVID. So I'm sure Steve's like a politician type. So if I post this, he'll get so upset. So we'll just leave that at that. But yes, Steve has COVID. So we certainly hope that Steve feels better. But certainly, if you are on Facebook, we are on Sportswire Radio on sportnarium.com/player. We will also have more coverage for you later this week. We'll have nonstop action wrestling world champion in his first interview, Tommy Dillon, the wild card Tommy Dillon. And also we will have on Mr. Sportswire Kyle Kennedy. We'll also see the returns of Wildfire Nate Reese. And I wanted to specifically thank Reynaldo, who I had the pleasure to meet earlier this morning here, the LWF World Champion all the way from England, who was on a birthday vacation. I got to give him a happy birthday as well. So I want to wish Reynaldo a very, very happy birthday. Of course, right now he's probably just getting off the plane and getting ready for a defense of his championship coming up for Summer Smash at the LWF's upcoming show later this evening. So happy birthday to Reynaldo. And of course, I also want to shout out Coach Jason Facina for our Five-Town Sound men's soccer team because preseason has ended. Unfortunately, I couldn't get to training camp, but I will get to a game later this month as their season starts very, very soon next week. So we look forward to Five-Town Sound men's and women's soccer team coverage. So I want to thank Coach Facina for that. Also get ready for SJC New York Golden Eagles men's basketball schedule to be released. Also want to thank Ernest Dove for coming on and thank everybody that's been supporting Sportswire Radio. Everybody's coming out. Wrestling Championship Entertainment, Nonstop Action Wrestling. ALP is coming back from KOW. Some breaking news there in the Europe world that we'll definitely talk about next week. But in the meantime, we are here with the brute force Brad Weiss, the legendary SJC New York Golden Eagle, head coach for our Plainview JFK Hawks boys basketball team. Also, Long Island Nets, Level Up, LI Brew Crew, and our longest tenured analyst, Rob Maraska. I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryson. You will get regularly scheduled programming from us here in about 20 or so minutes, where we will have a brand new episode of the Sit Down Mark. So you'll get all of that. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in here on the number one global radio station. And thank you for everybody that tuned in with us on Facebook and some of our other platforms through the technical difficulties. Glad we were able to fix that. But thank you, everybody. Good night. Enjoy your weekend. Don't drive like Marcelo Ozuna did if you are out there going out this weekend. And certainly, let's go Mets, let's go Yankees, and let's keep our fingers crossed and everything else. And of course, let's go Liberty. So thank you, everybody. Good night, and we'll speak with everyone here on the number one